Hey guys, how you doing you all? In this video we are going to see part 1 of What If Deku Fall in Love with Lusty Tokage. And please do check out story named One Bad Day by Raihne. Leave kudos, show some love on this story. And make sure to leave a like, share and subscribe. Let's get into the video. The city wasn't a kind place, but within it were places that served quite amazing tea. In one such shop, a criminal lifted his delicate china cup and took a long sip of an herbal tea, boasting hints of turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, and did he detect a hint of clove? Lovely. Gentle criminal inhaled the spicy aroma and sighed. Since his life had derailed from his original plans, an exquisite tea was one of his only bombs in a cruel world full of cold people. He had once wanted to be a hero, but at long last had given in to inevitability. He had decided to focus on villainy instead. The heroes didn't want him. Society didn't want him. Society simply didn't know him yet, but they would. He would make sure of that. And when the pressure became too much and the darkness of his thoughts began to win against his optimism, he would always have his harbors. D and La Brava. His saviors, his loves. Speaking of La Brava, she was probably waiting for her gentle to return home. He stood, purchased a package of the intriguing tea he just enjoyed, and stepped out into the sunlight. Just in time to see a small body falling from the tall building across the street. Gentle criminal's view flashed to the memory of the window washer 4 years before, the beginning of the end of his dreams. But this time there was no hero present. The people below didn't seem to notice the child. Fear fizzled through his veins like lightning, but his legs moved without his instruction and he found himself running forward, crossing the street regardless of traffic. Cars honked, a bumper painfully clipped his leg, but he didn't stop. He turned the sidewalk elastic and jumped up from beneath the boy to reach him. Gentle wrapped him tightly in his arms, making sure to brace his head against injury, then turned the air beneath them into a series of invisible trampolines. Those allowed him to bring the both of them safely to the ground where he fell to his knees, still cradling the child. He was shaking. Or was it just the boy? The child was crying, great heaving sobs, while tears of immense volume gathered in his eyes, only to fall down his cheeks. Gentle had never dealt with children, the youngest person he knew was La Brava, and she was nearly 20. Still, he couldn't help but feel for the pain of the young one who still hadn't left his arms. Hush, child. You are safe. A notebook fell with a thwop to the ground beside them, and Gentle glanced at the damaged cover. Hero analysis for the future, number 13, Another lost soul society failed. I too wanted to be a hero, once he said softly, almost to himself. The boy looked up, startled, you aren't a hero. Gentle criminal, at your service. He gave a chuckle and waited for the boy to panic, maybe to run. In preparation for this he released his hold on the child and sat back against the building. Although his legs were still splayed to either side of him, the boy could easily leave. Instead, the child started to laugh and stayed right where he was, shivering against Gentle's chest. It wasn't quite a pleasant laugh, a bit manic and wet with more tears. Is this his quirk? Tears shouldn't be so large or so plentiful. Oh wow. That's really my life, isn't it? A hero hopeful tells me to take a swan dive, a hero leaves me alone on the roof, and a villain saves me. Gentle blinked at the thoroughly bad day the child had experienced. Wishing to make it even a little better he asked, you seem in need of rehydration. Would you care for some tea? The boy's laughter slowly wound down, and he gave a sniff before nodding, hesitantly. Gentle passed him a handkerchief and walked him across the street to the small shop he'd only just come from. May I ask the name of my companion? With another sniffle the boy dabbed the last of his tears away and nodded, Midoriya Izuku. Well met, Midoriya. Izuku sipped at the tea. He found it bizarrely flavored, but Gentle criminal seemed to really like it, so he didn't comment, just poured in a little cream and honey. Tea. Thank you. For saving me. I knew the moment my feet left the roof that I didn't want to die, but by then. Gentle smiled sadly, all it takes is one bad day to change the course of a person's life. Izuku nodded, yeah. And when there are a lot of bad days leading up to the really bad one, it erodes your will to fight it. Indeed. You're very kind, for a villain. Izuku noted, confused and likely still dazed from his fall. The man laughed, well, I did take the name Gentle. How? How did you get me down safely? I noticed you did something to the air, but I couldn't see what. Gentle glanced at Izuku's notebook and Izuku's face got hot, he just knew he was blushing. I really like quirks. It's my hobby to analyze them, and I can usually figure them out on sight, so I'm really curious. My initial guess is that you can harden certain molecules or stop them from vibrating so they become static, but you reached me so fast and I didn't hear an explosion, which would have been a way to use molecules to speed yourself up. He was babbling, and he knew it, but the man across the little cafe table from him was simply sipping his tea and listening. He was actually listening. To him. Really. Are you? Are you listening to me? You're speaking, are you not? Izuku blinked, staring at the man before him. I. People usually just tell me to stop mumbling. Gentle criminal seemed confused. Your ideas were fascinating. Incorrect, but as you said there wasn't much for you to work with. I make things elastic, anything, even the air. That's an amazing quirk. So versatile. You could attack or protect, we just saw it work in rescue. The man's face clouded, not always, I'm afraid. I'm 50-50 for rescue. My first attempt cost me everything. What? I failed the first time I attempted a rescue. I was sued, expelled from school, my family disowned me. I was told I would never be a hero. One bad day. Just so. Gentle sipped the tea. Izuku realized that his own drink was getting cold, so he took a sip himself. Instead of choosing to end my life, though, I chose to part from my dream. If I wouldn't make it into the textbooks as a hero, I would do so as a villain. We have a lot in common. I've always wanted to be a hero, my whole life. To save people with a smile, like. His throat closed on the name. His hero's words were still too fresh, too raw in his mind. The hero who left you on that roof, I wager. Izuku's eyes shot back to the villain. I may not be the most candy of characters, Midoriya. But I do recognize a lifelong dream would take quite a catalyst to die. He looked away again. Die. Is it really dead? I don't want it to be. Blue eyes stared at him, looking deeper than he was comfortable with. Perhaps not dead. I'm quirkless. The man didn't bat an eye. And I have an amazing quirk. And yet, I failed. Perhaps, just perhaps, a quirk isn't the base need of a hero. Izuku wanted to cry again, but he wasn't going to. His vision of victory had told him to kill himself. His hero had told him to be realistic. The villain, who had saved him, was telling him not to give up. The hero world is messed up, isn't it? He whispered. Yes. Gentle spoke matter-of-factly, as if they were discussing the weather, and finished his tea. If I had been successful in that first rescue attempt, I would have been lauded. It's happened before. Many people think the end justifies the means. Too many. Izuku thought back to the fight earlier that day, Mount Lady suggestive poses and stealing the capture from a fellow hero. And some heroes put their fame and ranking before other things like duty and loyalty. Gentle raised his empty cup in agreement and stood, come. If you don't mind me knowing where you stay, I will walk you home. It is past time I return to my own as well. Izuku gave a small smile, he knew it was probably naive of him, but he trusted the older man. I mean, if you really wanted to hurt me, you could have just let me keep falling. Too true. They left the cafe to walk toward Izuku's apartment. He clutched his notebook and kept sending glances to the tall man beside him. He wore a long black coat with tails and a huge collar, a purple scarf and gloves, and striped pants that bagged and bunched in a way that Izuku hadn't really seen outside of an Aimer history class. He had clean-kept facial hair and a long mane both white as snow, but his face looked younger than his mom. He walked with a cane but didn't seem to need it. Is that your villain costume? He finally asked into the quiet between them. Aren't you worried one of the heroes will recognize you? Sadly, despite my best efforts, I have not yet reached that level of notoriety. Perhaps someday. I look forward to those chases. He smiled wistfully. Izuku found himself smiling back. Gentle criminal was definitely interesting. Maybe. Would you mind swapping numbers? I would. I'd really like to talk about your quirk more. And you. I don't have many. I don't have any friends. The man passed his phone over. I am not quite sure how to put numbers into this. La Brava handles such things for me. Izuku inputted his phone number, he thought about taking a selfie to put with the contact information, but Gentle was a villain. Probably not the best idea to leave evidence. Then again, if they were keeping in contact, there would be evidence, right? He finally just made the contact circle green and sent a quick hello text to himself. There, now I have your number too. He handed the phone back. Who is La Brava? The man's smile widened and he regaled Izuku with a story of a brilliant hacker and Gentle's #1 fan, reaching out to him and finding love together. It was sweet and kind of stalker-ish, but Gentle didn't seem bothered by it, so everything must have worked out. He really seemed to adore the woman. She would be a better ear for your analysis, to be honest. I have never been the most studious of men, but what I lack, she makes up for in spades. Izuku hoped he would get to meet her someday, then wondered if that was a weird thing to hope, wanting to meet a villain. Another one. But Gentle didn't seem really villainous. At all. There was an explosion just ahead of them, and Izuku jumped. Someone screamed. Another villain. So soon. He ran toward the sound and froze. Not another villain. The same villain who'd had him before. But that didn't make any sense. All Might had captured him. I must have knocked the bottles loose when I grabbed onto him. Oh no. Oh no no no. And he said he couldn't hold his muscled form any longer, which means he won't be coming back to save. Save. There was a shock of explosive blonde hair and familiar red eyes staring in panic, looking toward the heroes for help, 4 heroes, and they weren't stepping in. The notebook fell from Izuku's hands, and he leapt forward only to be stopped as someone grabbed him. No. Kaken. You know that boy? A gloved hand rested on Izuku's shoulder. He spun around. Gentle Criminal had followed him into the crowd. Yes, he's. I have to. Those familiar red eyes were dimming, rolling back. He was going to die, and the heroes weren't. But Gentle. Can you make the air elastic and use it to launch me forward? Gentle nodded. I don't see why not. Please. Do it. I'll use the force to drag Kaken free. Then you can solidify the air around the sludge to trap it so it can't follow. The man brightened, he motioned to the air just behind Izuku, hold on while I pull back. He was fighting the crowd, but they noticed something was happening quickly and moved aside. Now. He commanded and let go. The force was a lot, but Izuku was flying right toward Kaken. Aim for its eyes. He screamed to his friend and bully. Deku. Kaken groaned and fought, straining to get a hand free. Izuku reached for that same struggling hand. Their palms slapped together at the last moment and Izuku gripped so tightly it hurt. He kicked the toe of his sneaker into one of the sludge's bobbing bulbous eyes on his way past. The thing screeched and swore but pulled back, enough for Kaken to be partially visible. Enough for Kaken's other hand to release a blast into the villain's injured eye. Enough for the force of Izuku's momentum and Kaken's attack to pull the blonde free. Izuku had shot past Kaken before the other boy had been released, that meant once he was free, they flew into a spin, one over the other. Izuku tried to pull Kaken to him, but only managed to wrap himself carefully, so the other boy's head was guarded as the two of them swiftly approached the end of the alley. They hit the ground hard and tumbled to a stop on the sidewalk at the far end of it. Both of them were scraped raw in places, bloody, bruised and burned, but they were alive. Izuku gave a pained and manic laugh. It worked. Oh my god, it worked. Kaken, are you? The blonde was gasping and struggling, sludge trailing from his mouth. Izuku's heart gave a lurch and he quickly helped Kaken to his knees, slamming a hand into his back until he began coughing. Blobs of the stuff were expelled and Izuku grimaced. He remembered that feeling. You'll be okay, Kaken, you just have to cough it up. It's gross, but it'll get better. Just let it go. Spit it up. He tried to sound calm, but he could still remember the feeling of suffocating, and Kaken had been enveloped so much longer than Izuku was. At the other end of the alley, he heard Gentle Criminal, the prison I've made for him will dissipate, in time. I suggest you heroes have a plan in place by then. After the disgraceful display I just witnessed, I have my doubts. Still, perhaps you will prove me wrong. Do your jobs, heroes. I, Gentle Criminal, dislike cleaning up your messes. Then the man bounced to the top of the box. The bowing of the elastic air allowed Gentle's sharp boot heel to punch the sludge in its good eye. Gentle bounded from there to what looked like nothing but air, then to the roof of the building. His coat billowed around him and Izuku absently noted that he now understood the costume. It looked super cool in motion. The villain gave a wave from the rooftop down to the heroes and walked out of sight whistling a cheery tune. Boo. Kaken gagged and spat more sludge onto the sidewalk. Who the fuck was that? His usually powerful voice was wheezing and thready. He helped me save you. Izuku explained and rubbed the blonde's back. Stupid Deku. He coughed, interrupting his growl. You looked like you wanted to be saved. Izuku ignored the insults. Kaken wasn't in any shape to do him real damage, not yet. Heroes. The blonde managed to point out before he retched up what was hopefully the last of the sludge. The heroes were just standing there, Kaken. Izuku lost it. He'd been so scared, and the heroes who were supposed to be protecting them had just. Kaken could have. They would have let you die. Fuck. Kaken groaned. His whole body jerked. More sludge came up. Izuku yelled, he needs help. He's having trouble breathing. But 2 of the heroes were gone, probably chasing Gentle, and the other 2 were dealing with the villain. Kaken collapsed into the sludge he'd coughed out and Izuku pulled him up almost onto his lap, cradling him against his shoulder to keep his chest open and able to keep expelling more. The blonde spasmed and gagged and Izuku really didn't want to think about what was sliding down his back and soaking into his school uniform. Better than inside Kaken, right? Deku, Kaken struggled. Fuck. Didn't need. Shit. Kaken, yell at me later. Save your breath. Not. He gagged and spewed more up. Fuck. Finally, an ambulance pulled up and a paramedic jumped from it. Pass him over, quickly. Izuku released Kaken and the paramedic stared at the blonde like he could see inside of him. Maybe he could. That sludge is in his lungs. One side has stopped expanding. He got him on a gurney, laying on his side so he wouldn't choke on the sludge he was still vomiting and coughing up. We need to get to the hospital fast. He'll need a bronchoscopy to clear it up. And he needs oxygen. Izuku didn't know if he should ask to go with. He didn't know if Kaken would want him there. But they bundled him into the ambulance too. I see the abrasions, any other issues? You seem lucid. The second paramedic asked. I'm okay. Izuku insisted. The first paramedic looked at him and frowned. There's some sludge in your lungs as well, but much less. We should probably still get it out. No telling what issues it could cause later on. Izuku shivered. Forget the issues, I don't want any piece of that monster inside of me. Oh my god, if they hadn't picked me up, I wouldn't have known. How long would it have stayed there? Would it have been absorbed by my body? At least the heroes called an ambulance, I don't know what would have happened if. Heroes didn't call us, kid. Izuku stared at the man who must have some kind of X-ray quirk. Could he somehow use it to read minds? How would that even work? The second paramedic snorted a laugh, you're mumbling out loud, kid. We can't read your mind. Oh. Izuku felt stupid. Who? Ah. Who called? Believe it or not, a villain. He dropped down in front of us and sent us here. Not the strangest thing we've dealt with, but it's definitely the weirdest today. Izuku thanked whatever deity watched over quirkless kids for gentle criminal. The villain was his hero so many times over. He saved me from my one bad day. When Kamui Woods and Death Arms showed up at the hospital, Izuku had already been so disillusioned by heroes that he wasn't at all surprised when they weren't there to check on him. They wanted information on gentle criminal and they wanted to make sure Izuku knew how much trouble he could be in. What was he thinking? They'd looked him up. Quirkless. A quirkless kid shouldn't be throwing himself into danger when the pros were there to handle it. In hindsight, he probably should have done anything but what he did. Izuku sat up in the hospital bed and yelled right back at the heroes. Kaken was dying. He almost died. How long was I supposed to wait for the heroes to save the day? Huh? Was his death acceptable? I'm quirkless and I managed to help him, what does that say about all of you fucking heroes? Izuku. He flinched and stared past the heroes where Inko Midoriya stood in the doorway. Hi mom. I'm okay. She ran to his bedside and threw her arms around him, I was so scared when the hospital called me. Sweetheart, you can't do this to me, your poor mother's heart can't take it. I'm okay, mom. I promise. Kaken was the one in trouble. She nodded, I saw Mitsuki in the lobby. She said you saved his life. You're on the internet, Izuku. What? He blinked. Inko turned to the heroes and stood straight to utilize all 5'3" of her small frame. And you, why are you giving him a hard time? He was a hero. He saved his friend. But as a quirkless person. As a quirkless person he can get in no legal trouble. He doesn't even qualify as a vigilante because the law is based on quirk use. So tell me, why are you harassing my son? He used the assistance of a villain to complete the rescue. The villain launched him into the. Death Arms must have noticed how that sounded because he closed his mouth and looked to Kamui Woods for help. The other hero just shook his head. So, you're bothering my son because he was launched into a villain attack by another villain. Ma'am, it isn't. And what did the second villain do after launching my child into danger? He. Death Arms grimaced. He apprehended the first villain. Inko stared at him, then at Kamui Woods who raised his hands and backed up in surrender. Then she turned to Izuku, you aren't in trouble for swearing at the heroes. It seems entirely justified. Izuku smiled a wide, wet smile and sobbed, Mom. Before falling against her and crying his eyes out. The day had been too much. Everything had been too much. But his mom was there. His mom was there and everything would be okay. Itsuki woke up in the hospital in an itchy backless gown and stupid bandages he didn't need. Like he needed his fucking boo-boos covered. He wasn't a kid. It wasn't even that bad. Stupid villain. Quirk stealing, choking, impossible to grip villain, making Kitsuki look weak. Making the heroes think he needed saving. Making Deku think he needed saving. Stupid Deku. He growled and it came out as a wispy breathless sound. Fuck. What did that sludge extra do to my throat? This shit better be temporary. He clenched his fists in the blanket hard enough that they started smoking. They were probably ruined. His old hag would be pissed. Kitsuki was pissed. He snarled in his ruined and embarrassing voice, stupid fucking Deku. Who the hell does that nerd think he is looking down on me like that? Looking down on you? He looked up sharply to see his dad standing in the doorway with a frown on his face. Bakugo Kitsuki, the tall man said sharply, what kind of nonsense is floating around your head? Deku? Izuku, Kitsuki. Fine, he rasped, Izuku is just a quirkless loser, but he looks down on everybody, offering help they don't need, acting like he's worried, so I look weak like him. He trailed off. Kitsuki had never seen his dad's face turn that color before. What? That boy just risked his life to save yours. He's been your friend since you were in diapers and he never stopped, though I'm realizing now how bad that must have been for him. And his dad had never raised his voice. Itsuki started to get up and storm off, but he was attached to machines and the last thing he wanted was for some extra to come in and hear any of this shit his dad was spouting. Half an hour later, the heroes from the incident showed up and his dad shut up. Itsuki's brain, on the other hand, it kept going. Fuck. He didn't know how long he cried before settling down, but his head and eyes hurt. His mom gave him a cup of water and sat on the edge of the bed. Itsuki is going to be okay, she assured him. You got there in time. Mitsuki said if you'd been even a minute later, he would have died. You scared the life out of me, my baby, but you did the right thing. I'm so proud of you. Mom, he hiccuped. Tears threatened again. She smiled, my brave boy. He didn't feel brave. He felt rattled to his core and small. Very small. There were so many problems he'd willfully ignored in their society. So much corruption and bias, and it wasn't just the kids and teachers at his school, it was in the heroes too. Slimy and festering like the sludge in his lungs, unrecognized and untreated. It was disgusting and scary. Especially scary because people didn't see it. But now that he saw it, what could he do? He was just a kid. A quirkless, worthless kid. Izuku? His mom pressed and he realized he'd zoned out. Am I? Will they let me go home soon? She nodded, yes. The last tests came back clear. You're okay to go now if you're up to it. He stood quickly and then awkwardly clutched at the backless hospital gown. His mom laughed and handed him a pile of clothes, giggling at him as he crab walked to the little bathroom to change. It's not like I haven't seen your tushy before. She called happily. Mom. He wailed in embarrassment. It felt really good to be in regular clothes again. Although he wondered. Mom, where's my uniform? She grimaced, you're going to use your spare until we can afford another. He flinched, that bad. His mom nodded, I believe it was incinerated as medical waste. Great. Mom doesn't need this on top of everything else. It's okay, sweetheart. Honestly. Let me worry about money. Let's get home. I owe our conquering hero some katsudon. Should you be rewarding me for this? Inko hugged his shoulders tightly and Izuku could almost read her mind. She was rewarding him because she thought the world should be, but no one else was. As they passed Kaken's room, he heard Death Arms and Kamui Woods praising the angry blonde for surviving a villain attack. Kaken was spitting and cursing, although they lacked the usual volume. Whether the oxygen mask was muffling his voice or his lungs were still damaged, Izuku didn't know. His mom must have noticed his focus because she asked, do you want to visit him before we go? Did he? Izuku didn't imagine Kaken would do anything but throw some of those curses his way too, and he didn't want to see those heroes again as much as he'd once loved Kamui Woods. No. He knew he was okay, that was enough. He shook his head. His wonderful, sweet and understanding mother didn't press him, instead they left the hospital and caught the train home, Izuku leaning against her like a child, still overwhelmed by the day. Until his phone yelled a message is here. In a very familiar voice. Izuku fumbled it out of his pocket, blushing and stuttering apologies to the other passengers before he turned the sound down. Then he changed his ringtones to the present mixette. Only after that was taken care of did he check the message. It was from Gentle Criminal, Izuku hadn't added a name to the contact yet. He fidgeted with that, checking to see that his mother was engrossed in something on her own phone. Unknown number. Midoriya, you are a wonder. Our heroic endeavor was a success. You are truly a gifted strategist and we are in the news. We have been recognized, my boy. After so many videos and all my efforts and all it took was a single outing with you. Unknown number. Granted I've been recognized as a vigilante, not a villain, however I see no problem in that. Either is a criminal and perhaps you have helped me find my calling. You have my deepest thanks. He changed the name to Gentleman, figuring that was close enough and wouldn't draw too much attention if anyone noticed it. He made his icon a cup of tea with a fond smile. I'm very happy for you. You deserve it. Thank you for saving him and for saving me. Gentleman. Not at all my boy, it is I who should be thanking you. My rescue rate has increased from 0 to 66%, that's a passing grade. I also took the liberty of retrieving your notebook and a yellow backpack from a certain rooftop. Your student card was inside, so both have been dropped off in your home. I hope you don't mind. I completely forgot about my backpack. And no, I was leading you there anyway, before everything happened. I'm grateful. Gentlemen. Think nothing of it. It was the least I could do. Gentlemen. La Brava is singing your praises and insists that she meet you. She is thrilled to see a video of myself going. I believe viral was her term. The rescue is going viral. Gentlemen. Goodness, yes. It's been only a few hours and nearly has 5,000 views. So many. Gentlemen. Apparently, we make a stellar team, my boy. If you ever want to try giving crime a chance, I would gladly take you on. Izuku laughed and his mom looked at him in question. Sorry, just texting with a friend. She beamed and he felt a little bad. He didn't talk about friends often. It probably worried her. But he wasn't lying. Gentle was a friend. A strange and much older friend, but a friend. And that was kind of amazing. Instead of pushing him about said friend, she squeezed his hand and returned her attention to her phone, letting him have his privacy. His mom was perfect. Well, I could get behind vigilante work much easier than villain work. Gentlemen. Did you encounter any trouble after I took my leave? I got yelled at for getting in the way of the heroes. But my mom came in while they were doing it and tore them to pieces. Gentlemen. She must be a force to be reckoned with. 5-3 force of nature. Gentlemen. If I were more above board I would love to meet her, however after my slight elevation in recognition I fear she may not approve. You saved me and Kakin, you could be a full-on villain and she'd make you cookies. Gentlemen, La Brava here, I've taken Gentle's phone in order to send you this video link attached. Would you mind if I saved your number to my phone as well? You've done so much for my Gentle. He is literally the reason I'm alive right now. Twice over. Gentlemen. I'm saving it. Hold on. A new unknown number popped up and Izuku opened the message. Unknown number. You have no idea what this video and the recognition mean to him. It's about time more people see how special my Gentle is. Thank you. In that case, you're very welcome. He saved her number as Ladab instead of La Brava and searched for a picture for her, settling on a more fancy and feminine teacup. He'd never met the woman, so he'd go with the theme. Ladab. Enjoy the video. Hopefully I will meet you soon. Thank you. I'll watch it now. Izuku put on his earbuds and clicked on the video. His mom glanced over at the motion. Oh, you're watching it. He nodded, my friend sent it to me. He said it was going viral. She motioned for one of his earbuds and listened along with him. It was steady and from a good angle, straight on and slightly above the scene. Probably from someone watching from a window across the street. They filmed the struggle and the heroes keeping people back, then zoomed in on him and Gentle as he was launched. The video pulled back a bit and caught his rescue of Kakin, as well as Gentle's capture of the villain. It was so smooth it looked like they were professionals. They worked well together. Izuku grinned at Gentle's wide gestures and bow as he berated the heroes. The person who took the video must have fooled around with the sound because his speech was clear and elegant. In the background Izuku watched Kakin vomit over his shoulder. I should avoid him for maybe the rest of my life. That might be long enough to survive his wrath. Though Kakin and Gentle's faces were facing front in the video, Izuku was always facing away. Probably a good thing. I don't want to think about the hell I'd get in class over all of this. After the video finished, lettering appeared on the screen. The vigilante, Gentle criminal, then attracted the attention of an ambulance and sent it for the two boys, while the heroes still did nothing. It really makes me wonder how it's decided who's good enough to be a hero, because from where I'm standing, a middle schooler and a vigilante calling himself a criminal just owned them all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. His mom shivered, it isn't ever going to get easier to watch. But I'm still very proud of you, Izuku. Thanks mom. He smiled and thumbed through the comments. There were a ton. Some were disparaging, but most agreed with the person posting the video. A lot even shared situations they'd been in when a hero hadn't been there when they needed them, or worse. A lot of people had been failed by heroes. Izuku's hands itched for his notebook. A plan was slowly forming in his mind. A really bad plan, the kind his mother would absolutely hate. The kind of plan that might get him arrested. But it still felt right. Hey Gentle. How serious are you about taking me on as a vigilante? They met again at the same cafe. Izuku thought he should have more negative feelings about sitting calmly across from where he tried to kill himself, but instead it was nice. Safe. Like the bullies wouldn't touch him there. The two villains vigilantes sitting at the table with him helped, he was sure. La Brava was adorable. Her costume a feminine and heart-themed version of her lover's. Her pink eyes alight with passion as they both nerded out over Gentle's quirk. She was a fangirl, she spoke Izuku's language. She also perfectly complemented Gentle. Where he was more physically powerful, she was sharply intelligent and they were devoted to each other in a way Izuku could only hope he would find for himself. It was like they lived in a romance novel they were constantly writing. Kakin was right, I'm an extra. While my ego appreciates your enthusiasm, both of you, might I ask why you asked to meet again so soon? It seemed you had enough excitement for at least a few days. Izuku blushed. He had. He was still reeling from it. But he couldn't stop thinking about his plan. He'd filled an entire notebook in a single night. He hadn't slept a wink. He was existing on caffeine and the hyper-focus of a man with a mission. I watched the video. Gentle grinned wide, marvelous, wasn't it? It's up to 1 million views. People have borrowed clips from the footage and reposted it. We even made the paper and featured shortly on the television news. Izuku nodded. I read the comments, and a bunch of people mentioned heroes who had wronged them. Some were the usual bluster and entitlement, but a lot were serious. I did some digging and found this. He handed them the notebook and sipped his tea nervously. His mom was really the only person who ever read his analysis, besides Kaken, and Kaken had been very vocal about how bad they were. Gentle and Labrava didn't look like the book was worthless. They dug through it, making sounds here and there, flipping back and forth to check previous pages against later ones. Finally, Labrava spoke, "This is really in-depth. You verified all of this?" "As best as I could with general research on public databases. There are 59 heroes mentioned in the comments that have histories of complaints against them. 47 of them are still on active duty. From what I found, they shouldn't be. It's scary what a hero can get away with." Gentle frowned, revolting. Izuku nodded, "The HPSC protects the heroes, good and bad, they make the legal charges just go away, as long as they're ranked heroes, even low-ranking ones. It's not right. I was thinking. Labrava, Gentle mentioned you were a skilled hacker. If you could dig deeper into these people, verify that they're really guilty, find some solid dirt. We can bring them to light. Make videos condemning bad heroes. Continuing to clean up their messes." Gentle mused. "Yes." Izuku nodded, "It would work, right? You'd get a lot of recognition. We'd be giving a push to reform the system. We could be heroes, well, vigilantes, but we could do a lot of good." Labrava flipped through the book some more. "I can do that. And I can compile videos of their evil deeds. Gentle can be the star, bringing it all to light." She bounced excitedly. Gentle nodded, "And Izuku as well, Labrava. We'll need to get you a costume. And a name to protect your civilian identity." "Wait, me? I'm not. You don't need me." He breathed in sharply and shook his head. "I figured I'd just give you names, base analysis, I'm not. I'd just slow you down." "Nonsense." "I agree with Gentle," Labrava nodded, "this whole thing is your brainchild. Besides, what you brought us is so much more than basic analysis. Do you know what stuff like this is worth to some people?" He shook his head. "Info brokers would charge tens of thousands of dollars for a notebook like this on a target. But it's nothing different than I write every day. You have unsung depths, my boy." Gentle cheered exuberantly, "And I, for one, wouldn't dream of embarking on this journey without you standing equally by my side. You have the intelligence and passion to bring the plan together. But I can do that from the shadows or something, Gentle." Gentle leaned forward and said plainly, none of his usual flair, "Something tells me you've been kept back in the shadows far too long, Izuku. I won't be another who does that to you." Gentle. He felt the tears on his face and ducked his head in shame. "So, what shall we call our partner?" Izuku was trembling. He wasn't sure if it was excitement or nerves, maybe both. He hadn't expected them to want him to be right there with them, in the spotlight. He was just Deku. Just a weird quirkless kid with his nerdy notebooks and hobbies. Labrava took his hand, "You are more than they've let you be, Izuku. Please, let us see you grow into what society doesn't want to see. Let us see you in the light." He sobbed but nodded. Thank you. Thank you both. I won't let you down." "We know." Gentle smiled, "Now, what is your new name? How will the world know you?" "Blacklist. Because that's what we're compiling." Labrava clasped her hands and swayed happily, "This is perfect, Gentle. This is just what you needed. We'll be heroes even if they didn't want us. Not the heroes they want, but the heroes they need." Izuku bit his lip in worry, "It's going to be dangerous. The bigger the waves we make, the harder the hero commission is going to come for us. But also, the more people who will come to our cause. Blacklist may begin with you, but it will grow into a coalition, a league people society has tossed aside, looking for another way. Like me, an alternative to villainy. Izuku, this has all the hallmarks of a movement. Not simply a mission, but a call to arms." Labrava grinned, her pink eyes flaming with a different kind of passion, "So boys, who's ready for a revolution?" The doorbell rang before school the next day, and Izuku froze where he'd been carefully removing his All Might posters from the walls of his bedroom. He was getting rid of most of his All Might merch. As much as he still loved and respected the hero, every time he saw him, he heard those words. He wanted to be more than All Might told him he could be. So he was removing the judging eyes. Someone knocked and he jumped down, poster still in hand, and ran to the door. Haken stood there, face set in a scowl, but body fidgeting like he was uncomfortable. That was rare. He wanted to ask if the other boy was alright, but that would lead to badness. Izuku remembered the log incident when they were little. Finally, the blonde shoved something forward and Izuku dropped the poster to catch it. It was a school uniform. The hag wanted me to give that to you. I outgrew it last year. So auntie won't have to buy you a new one after. After Kaken had puked sludge all over it. Thank you Kaken. Izuku tried not to beam, but knew he was failing. Kaken made a dismissive scoffing sound, whatever, Deku. Then he looked at the poster Izuku had dropped. Kaken knew that poster, Izuku was sure. It had been one of the few pieces of merch he'd managed to get that Kaken didn't. He'd won it from a radio trivia contest. Huh. Didn't think you'd ever take that one down. Izuku blushed. I'm kind of leaving my All Might phase. He's still really cool but they're right when they say never meet your heroes. Do you want it? I have a few boxes of stuff I'm just going to sell, so if you want to look through them. He stepped aside and waited. A scowl fell into confusion and Kaken actually stepped inside, carefully rolling up the poster as he went. The fuck you met All Might? Izuku shrugged, he saved me, yesterday. Right after school. And he was so bad you're dropping your idol? The blonde asked, clearly disbelieving. He told me a quirkless person could never be a hero. Izuku hesitated, but Kaken was being almost nice. Then he left me on a roof. A tall one. Kaken flinched and Izuku wondered if he was thinking back to their conversation that day. Deku. Well, if he's going to use this against me, he might as well know all of it. I jumped, Kaken. Red eyes went wide and shot to stare into Izuku's. That vigilante that helped me get you out of the sludge villain, he caught me. Warm arms were suddenly crushing him, Izuku tensed and froze, completely unsure of what to do in this situation. He wasn't sure if it was a hug or a grapple and had no idea what came next in either case. What he wasn't expecting at all was for Kaken's voice to break as he swore, I didn't fucking mean it, Deku. You never listened to me. Why the fuck would you pick that to listen to? Kaken. Stupid fucking Deku. The blonde's palms were getting uncomfortably warm and Izuku really hoped he wasn't about to be singed. Stupid Deku. Was his voice breaking? Kaken. Are you okay? The arms released him and Kaken snarled, explosions rolling in his palms, seriously, Deku. What the fuck? I mean. You aren't acting like yourself and I died on the fucking table, Deku. They brought me back, but that sludge. I died. You saved my life and now you're telling me you tried to take a swan dive off a fucking roof before that. I suicide baited you, you listened, and then you fucking saved me. Who the fuck does that? Izuku blinked, there was no Kaken acceptable answer here. Deku? That's who. Only you. And you almost. And I almost. What even is my life? Izuku snorted, remembering asking himself the same thing after realizing that Gentle was a criminal. It's not fucking funny. The proper response was probably anything except, it's a little funny. But of course that's what came out of Izuku's mouth. Kaken looked ready to kill something. Maybe him. Instead, the blonde fell back to sit on Izuku's bed and put his head in his explosion-free hands. I wonder if he's ever forgotten they were going off and burned himself doing that. Fuck. Kaken groaned. Izuku shifted from foot to foot. Maybe inviting him in was a bad idea. Truce. Okay. Huh? Kaken's eyes shot up angrily and Izuku waved his hands in front of him like he could wipe the noise from the air. No, I didn't mean, I just mean, I don't understand. At the hospital I had a long fucking conversation with my dad. And it turns out I was maybe wrong. About you. Izuku sat hard on his desk chair and stared. Interrupt me and I'll kill you. Kaken snarled. Izuku nodded. When you didn't get a quirk but kept trying to help me or save me or other kids. I decided you were looking down on me. Showing me up by being so fucking heroic even though you were weak and worthless and kept getting beat up. I couldn't figure out why else you'd keep following me when I pushed you away. I got upset about being rescued by you. My dad. Usually when he talks at me, I can just leave, but I was hooked up to all those machines and stuck in the hospital bed, so he had a captive fucking audience this time. And he made sense. Said you weren't looking down on me, you were looking up to me. That you were trying to be a fucking friend or some shit. And that you just wanted us both to be heroes. Izuku's eyes widened. He nodded. So. Truce. I won't blow your shit up or burn you or bully you. But I'm not ready to be friends again either. Okay. So just. We'll leave each other alone for a while. Got it? Izuku's heart broke a little. He'd been hoping maybe. But this was better than anything he was expecting. He nodded again and held up a box of All Might merch. Did you want? Fuck no. Kaken scoffed. That bastard was a shit to this fucking nerd I know. Who'd want his fucking merch? Izuku noticed though that Kaken took the poster. It made him smile. While Izuku kept up with his schooling, the rest of his days were suddenly filled with activity. He jogged in the morning, worked on research and analysis in every free moment, and after school he joined Gentle Criminal and La Brava for quirk practice. Not something he thought he would ever be doing, but he needed to learn to utilize Gentle's elastic air steps and to know when his partner was using his quirk so he wouldn't run into it accidentally or step on what he thought was solid only to bounce and fall on his face. Which he'd done a lot of so far, honestly. You have a good grasp of your body's limitations, speed, and agility. Gentle noted. La Brava frowned, probably from dodging bullies. Izuku couldn't argue with that. You need to learn to trust me and my quirk. Gentle continued, that is what is quite literally tripping you up. You did so when we fought the sludge villain together, but you were focused only on saving someone, you didn't have time for doubt then. He nodded. We simply need to tear down the doubt outside of life or death situations. Like team building exercises? La Brava asked. Gentle smiled, I was thinking of repetition, but yours is an excellent idea La Brava. She put her computer aside and jumped hard on the elastic ground. Trust fall. Izuku watched in horror and then fascination as Gentle Criminal hardened the air in strategic places to bounce her up and down, side to side, once even into a somersault, only to land her gently in his arms. La Brava cooed and gushed over how amazing Gentle was and Izuku admitted, it had looked really fun. He blushed and asked, can I try? Gentle looked shocked at the overture, but La Brava pecked his cheek and jumped down. Izuku leapt in the other direction, away from what was surely a maze of invisible trampolines. He felt a moment's trepidation as he began to fall, but then the feeling of stretchy air cradled and flung him into another catch, and another. He opened his eyes and grinned widely, his body slowly catching up to his mind and knowing he would be safe. It wasn't at all long enough when he was funneled into a quick series of side-to-side bounces that placed him back onto the ground with barely a stumble. He felt electric, excited, like when he rode amusement park rides as a kid. He held in the urge to demand to do it again. That was wonderful, Izuku. La Brava cheered. He was still grinning. Thank you. Gentle, I think I felt what you meant up there. Can we try the invisible steps again? Gentle nodded. After hours without a fall, Izuku finally felt like he was getting the hang of things. Though if he could, so could others. Gentle. I was thinking. If we set the steps and platforms up the same way every time, someone will catch on. It could be a liability. Maybe we could work out a system, codes, to tell La Brava and I which direction to jump from the starting point. Like a text at the beginning of the day. One good morning phrase means left, another right, another forward, and another back. La Brava danced around excitedly, yes. We can incorporate code for height or distance to make it even harder for anyone to follow. I'll write a code book out for each of us. Just until we memorize it. And if one of us doesn't respond to the morning code, we'll know something is wrong. Izuku added. Gentle looked a little overwhelmed, but La Brava soothed it over expertly. Izuku hadn't felt like this since Kaken's quirk had come in. Like he was wanted by someone other than his mom. He had worth. He had not just one friend, but two. And they all had a dream together. The next time he jumped, there was no hesitation. He knew they would catch him. Izuku finished his dinner and kissed his mom's cheek on the way to the door. They'd been preparing for 2 weeks. It was finally time for their first move. I'm going to hang out with my friends, Mom. I finished my homework already and I'll be back by midnight. Inko gave him a smile and wave as he laced up his shoes. Be safe, Izuku. Have fun. We will. He promised, snagged his backpack, and hurried out into the night. Gentle and La Brava were waiting for him on his rooftop, as morbid as it was to call it that. Izuku felt the air in the far back of the alley until his hands hit a spot with mass. He climbed on and bounced up. The good morning message told him they would start to the left and then go right, climbing at 7 feet intervals. After all of their practice it was a simple task. He made it to the roof with no problems and changed into his costume behind the air conditioning unit. La Brava had given him striped pants just like theirs. He had a dark purple dress shirt with large white cuffs buttoned up the side with gold buttons like those on Gentle's coat and over it a black waistcoat, tightly cinched, double-breasted, and with tails and a hood. His boots were black calf-high boots with buckles up the sides. Instead of a bow or scarf, he had a loose green tie and left the top couple buttons of his shirt undone. On his hands, soft green gloves, and to hide his identity, he wore thick eyeliner that changed the shape of his eyes in the dark and a gas mask that covered him from his chin to under eyes, hiding his freckles. All in all, he looked good. He looked like part of the team. He looked powerful. He felt powerful. Izuku shook his head. This wasn't about him. He stashed his bag and stepped into the meager light the roof afforded them. Gentle met him with a grin. Ready for our first mission. Izuku nodded. He should have gone home by now. La Brava gave me the building layout and location of his safe. She's 90% sure she has the code to unlock it, so it should be pretty simple to get to the files he doesn't want the public to see. Aki, to hide them in his agency. Gentle hummed. He's a pretty small-time hero, Izuku noted, he only ranked by riding on the coattails of his betters. And then he used his fame to lure young women into compromising positions. Izuku glared, he used his pheromone quirk to seduce them, they couldn't say no. And he kept blackmail. La Brava can blur their faces, right? We don't want to victimize them any more than they have been. Of course, blacklist. And perhaps we'll find clues as to where the missing girls have gone. Or at least closure for their families. The two traveled on the air, Gentle keeping a tight hold on Izuku, just in case. Izuku was grateful. He was getting more comfortable trampolining on thin air, matching Gentle's steps, but it was a long way down. They landed on the roof of the Heartflame agency and slipped inside. Everything was right where La Brava had said, the code worked, it was so easy that Izuku kept looking for traps. This was their first mission though, maybe this was how missions were supposed to go. As he was zipping the evidence safely into his black shoulder bag, a light flicked on. Gentle placed a shield of air in front of them and dove, knocking Izuku to the ground. Heartflame himself had just walked in. Izuku swore and stared at Gentle's bare face. Izuku's gas mask would keep him safe, but Gentle. He whispered, he uses pheromones, we have to get out into the open. If you get too close, he can affect you. Gentle grimaced and whispered back, then we must flee quickly. They scrambled to their feet and back toward the window behind them. Izuku picked up a computer tower and flung it through the glass. They jumped. Gentle took Izuku's hand and used his quirk, they bounced once, twice, and landed safely on the ground. So cool. Izuku laughed and Gentle smiled, but a loud curse filled the alley, and Heartflame dove through the window himself. He bounced awkwardly, not seeing or expecting the elastic air, and hit the ground with a cracking sound that made Izuku wince. Oh god, I think that was his leg. It is the least of his worries. A gravelly voice said from the shadows. A knife caught the light, and Heartflame tried to scream, but it slammed hard into his shoulder. Massive hands lifted the hero. A long pink tongue licked his blood away from his wound. Heartflame froze, eyes wide and rolling like a scared animal. Both Gentle and Izuku stared at the large man who emerged from the darkness. He wore a white mask with a ragged red bandana and scarf. His outfit was a strange mix between ninja and commando. And he had a lot of knives. Izuku could easily make out 9 in the dark, and he didn't doubt that he'd missed many. The word hero has lost all meaning in this society. False hero Heartflame, you need to be purged. He unsheathed a sword. Wait. Izuku yelled, don't kill him, please. The man towered over him, he looked down in confusion and a hint of annoyance, just because I am ridding the world of false heroes, that doesn't mean I associate with thieves. I'm not a thief. I'm Blacklist, and this is Gentle Criminal. We're vigilantes working to take down corrupt heroes the same as you. We stole evidence of the things he's done and gotten away with. Then you understand why I do this. He raised the sword again. Wait. Izuku spread his arms and pressed himself between the looming swordsman and fallen hero. He heard Gentle curse softly and imagined he was making the air between them elastic, even though Izuku wasn't sure what that might accomplish against a sword. The man snarled, what? If you kill him, he becomes a martyr to the broken system. People will rally behind his death as if he was a good man. He'll die with everyone but his victims thinking he's a hero. If we kill him in the gallows of public opinion, he'll live, but he'll be destroyed utterly, and instead of a martyr, he'll be a rallying cry for change. He'll be proof of false heroes. Proof society isn't working. That's what we're trying to accomplish. It's what you want too, isn't it? Change. Justice. For the word hero to mean something again. The man stared at him for a long moment, then slowly leaned back and sheathed the sword. I'm listening. Izuku was really regretting the white stripes on his pants. He'd almost messed himself. But finally, he breathed and relaxed a bit. We have hard evidence of his crimes. We're going to make a video, post it to social media platforms, send it to news stations, and then drop copies of everything off to the police. If the media and police don't run with it, the internet will. It will still be out there. People he's wronged will start coming forward. Some already have, that's how we found him. And it won't stop with him. People will come forward about other heroes and the things they've done. And from that, we'll have a more clear way forward. So he simply goes free. After everything he's done. No. There won't be any freedom for him after it's all known. And if there is, if he somehow manages to wriggle out of all the evidence. Gentle spoke up, then, my good man, you can kill him. Izuku bit his lip but nodded. He didn't like that idea, but he didn't think it would end like that. He had to trust their plan. We'll have done our best at that point and given justice a chance. But I really think it will work. Especially because now that he's heard all of this, he's likely to choose prison or suicide over meeting you again in a dark alley. Heart Flame whimpered on the ground and Izuku smelled urine. Oh, come on. I'm a kid and I held my bladder, what kind of hero are you? The knife-covered man gave a cough and then a snicker. He licked the knife once more and sheathed it. I'm called Stain. He offered. You sound like I used to, when I still had hope for this world, but you have a plan I didn't try. So why not? If it doesn't work, he still dies. All it costs me is a couple days. Izuku relaxed completely and smiled, you are very scary. Stain's mouth ticked up in a half smile, then you are very brave. Gentle pulled out his phone and hit the speed dial, La Brava, we have been given a special opportunity. The hero we were targeting showed up and was taken down. Would you like to bring your camera and add to the planned video with an in-person interview? Izuku struggled to lift the still frozen man, Stain tried to step forward but bounced off the air shield. He tapped it, then tried to stab it, found the edge and tried again. Apparently, the blade couldn't penetrate, it was blunted. It would still hurt very badly, but in the bruise kind of way, not the dead kind. Izuku watched the man test it and grinned, that's good to know. We never tested it against blades. I have. Gentle offered. Your quirk? Stain asked Gentle. Izuku shook his head, the less said around this guy the better. Since we aren't planning on killing him just yet. Stain acquiesced and lifted the paralyzed hero easily. Where are we taking him? Izuku looked back up at the window they'd broken out of. Would be kind of poetic to film his downfall in his office. La Brava, did you hear that? Lovely my dear, we shall see you soon. Izuku was eating breakfast when his mom gasped and turned up the television. The newswoman was talking about the fall of Heart Flame, referencing the video that had been making rounds on social media and the police response. They showed a clip of the hero handcuffed and being marched into the back of a police car by officers in gas masks and gloves. Hero Heart Flame, well known for his use of quirk pheromones to disarm dangerous situations, has been using that same ability very differently behind closed doors. Evidence of the sexual assault of multiple young women was brought forth by a team of vigilantes. You may recognize Gentle Criminal from the incident a few weeks ago in Musatafu, but introduced in the video is a previously unseen accomplice, Blacklist. They showed the end of the clip, Gentle and Izuku standing to either side of the humiliated hero. Heart Flame sat seemingly docile between them, if you didn't know Stain was off camera keeping the man immobile. Izuku slapped a spread hand on the desk and spoke, too many people have stories about heroes failing them, stumbling in their duty, choosing the easy path, choosing the wrong path. The word hero used to mean something, before it was just another profession. It used to mean a person would be safe. A hero was there. Gentle spoke softly, now, the name and the commission who oversees them have become a shield. Not for the public, for those crying out in need. No. They are a shield for corruption festering in the hearts of fake heroes. Not every hero deserves that title. But there are enough who do, that we've heard the voices of those wronged. Izuku promised. This is our answer to your voices. You aren't silenced. We hear you. And we're hunting them down. One at a time. Until society changes for the better and the title of hero means something again. I am Blacklist, and that is what we're creating. A list of the darkness in hero society. A list of people we will bring to justice. Because if a young lady runs to a hero, she should receive help. Gentle admonished gravely. Not this. He fanned a handful of pictures out, showing Heart Flame and obviously intoxicated and controlled women, their faces and private places carefully blurred. We are sharing all of the evidence we've collected with the police to see if they can be trusted to bring the false heroes to justice. Izuku promised. And to all of the fair weather heroes, the corrupt, the lazy, the dangerously incompetent, watch yourselves. Or you might find yourself blacklisted. The clip ended and the newscaster went into more details about the legal side of things and what the public could expect moving forward. Inko sat at the table with him and shook her head, those poor girls. I hope with this they find some peace. I can't imagine them having to live with what happened, knowing who had hurt them. Izuku nodded, letting his shock at the swift action of the police paint his face instead of his glee over that exact same thing. There was still the trial, still a chance that everything could go sideways, but this was a good start. Everything was going even better than planned. I may not have what it takes to be a hero, All Might, but I took your advice. There are so many other ways I can save people. Maybe, if this was fully successful, they'd also get Stain on their side. He was a powerful man with strong convictions and he'd found Heart Flame separately from them, so he must have his own way to find what heroes wanted to hide. He'd be a perfect addition to the team. Although I doubt La Brava will get him to change his costume. He almost laughed at the thought. His mom noticed his small smile and spoke, I know vigilantes are criminals, but that one, Gentle Criminal, he's the one who saved you and Kitsuki before. And now this. She looked like she wanted to say more but shook her head. Mom? The world is changing. She finally decided on, maybe it's getting ready for a quirkless hero. He wasn't sure if she'd realize that was him on TV or if she was talking about UA in hero school. If she guessed it's because of my hair, I should have slicked it back or something. But maybe she really just wants to support me in trying to get into the hero course. I want to try, Mom. I still want to try to get into UA. Of course you do, sweetheart. He accepted her hug and planned. Getting ready for UA would explain any changes in his body while he trained to be blacklist. It would also buy him a lot of leeway in curfew if he was out training. Sure, he really did want to try, but even if he didn't make it, he'd be okay. He'd found his way to help. He was already on his path, with friends who supported him and the hope of more looming. He would be okay. And he would make sure everyone else was too. When he met with Gentle and La Brava to plan their next target, Stain was there, leaning against the wall with arms crossed. He looked as huge and foreboding as before, but something had shifted in his eyes. Izuku smiled at him. It isn't perfect yet, they haven't set a date for court, but he is going to court. I will believe it when it happens, but I'll admit, it isn't as hopeless as I'd assumed. I tried to look you up, but there weren't any mentions of Stain online. The man shifted. Heart Flame was to be my first act as Stain. Before, I was a vigilante called Stendhal. But I wasn't making enough of a difference, so I decided I would stain myself to call the false heroes from the world. Some cultures believe in sin eaters. People who take the evil of the world into themselves to grant others peace. I was prepared to be that for Japan. Izuku nodded solemnly. I can understand that. But do you think? If our plan works? Would you like to continue with us? Since our goals are so similar. Stain hummed. Gentle Criminal and I were discussing just that before you arrived. I am finding it difficult to believe this can or should be accomplished without bloodshed. But, I am willing to make the attempt, for now. I will act as a guard for you during your infiltrations and fetch the heroes you're hunting once you have the evidence you need. It worked well the first time. And any who escape the justice of the law will meet my justice. I think I can live with that. Gentle Criminal and I also spoke about you, young Blacklist. That you wanted to be a hero. Izuku took a deep breath. Yes. I'm quirkless, so it will be a challenge. But I want to try. To prove it to myself and all the people out there being told they can't be heroes. To save people in all the ways I can. Stain stared at him for a long moment, then pushed away from the wall. That is the conviction of a hero if I ever heard it. I am willing to train you. It won't be easy, but it will be effective. Izuku looked to Gentle and La Brava who waved him off. We have your notes to work with. La Brava promised. I can work from there while you're training. I'll tell you when I have everything on the next target. Gentle agreed, twisting his mustache and thought, I know the pain of being kept from one's dreams, Izuku. I would never do such a thing to you. Excited, Izuku turned his attention to Stain. When can we start? Can we start now? Stain smiled, small, but there. We're going to need more space than this house offers. Follow me. 3 hours later Izuku was sprawled out in the sand of Dagaba Beach. He vaguely remembered going there as a child with Kaken and their moms, but it was completely unrecognizable now. There were mountains of trash, big pieces to small, more than enough to block them from prying eyes as Stain pummeled. I mean trained. Trained him. We'll need to work on your stamina. Stain noted, not even winded. Izuku gave him a thumbs up and flopped his arm back down again. Stain laughed at him. He lay there a moment then looked around the beach. Do you think cleaning this place up would help with that? The large man nodded. It would be a good start. Why? Looking for a little recognition to pad your application to hero school. Izuku shook his head. No, I just remember it being such a great place when I was a kid. I kind of want to see it like that again and let other people see it too. Maybe if I clean it up and people see how beautiful it is, they'll start taking care of it again, you know. Stain smiled, a wide and real smile, and pulled Izuku, protesting, to his feet. Like I said before. A hero. Alright, no time like the present. Get started. Izuku groaned, curled in on himself for a second, then straightened up and got to work. He didn't have bags or anything, so he found plastic sacks as he went and filled all of the nearby trash cans before starting to sort the big stuff for when he came back. The bending and straightening, lifting, dragging, and lugging made his lungs hurt from his labored breathing. Finally Stain called a halt to the work and Izuku was pleased to find a noticeable dent. You're going to hurt like hell tomorrow. But now I have a better idea of what you need to work on. I'm going to write up a plan tonight. How long do you need for school and schoolwork? School is around 7 hours. I can get most of my work done there, maybe 2 hours a night for studying for the entrance exams though. The notebook I gave La Brava has a lot of names, so I shouldn't need to worry about finding more for a while. Don't worry about that. If they run out, I'll find us targets. You only have about 10 months to build the muscle and stamina needed for the physical exam, and you need to learn to fight. You're agile enough, but you'll have to constantly work on that too, so the building muscle doesn't compromise flexibility. For the next 10 months, let us worry about the grunt work. Any allergies to food? He shook his head, overwhelmed. Good. I'll put together a nutritional plan for you to follow. I suggest you get a good weight set to use at home. I should have enough once I sell my All Might merch. He nodded. Alright. I'll meet you at Gentle Criminal's place tomorrow, same time as today, and we'll finalize our plans. You'll stick to it rigidly. No pushing to do more. No slacking. No cheat days. Clear. Crystal, Stain-sensei, he said and then covered his mouth, I mean. Stain laughed, I like the sound of that. Out of costume though, you can call me Chisholm-sensei. Izuku smiled, Midoriya Izuku, but I don't mind if you call me Izuku. Thanks, little hero. Stain patted his head affectionately and walked back the way they'd come. That works too. Izuku laughed and followed him, pushing his exhausted muscles just a little more before he could claim the comfort of his bed. Boy, Deku, you look like shit. He glared at Kaken as he fell into his seat. Someone kick your ass. The blonde pressed and Izuku realized he was trying to figure out if someone was bullying him. He fidgeted and looked down at the desk to hide his smile. Kaken wouldn't appreciate it. Ah. No. No, I started training for UA. My sensei evaluated me yesterday, so he pushed my limits. I'll be okay. Kaken scoffed, Sensei, huh? Izuku looked up nervously, hoping Kaken wouldn't bring up their money troubles in front of the other kids. His mom couldn't afford a trainer and they both knew it. Chisholm-sensei is a friend. I'm helping him with some things and he's paying me with training. Kaken looked him up and down slowly and arched an eyebrow, he got a nerd kink or something. Izuku's arms and hands flailed once more trying to strike Kaken's words out of existence. No. Not like that. Why? Why would you even say that? He whined. Research. I'm helping him with research, oh my god Kaken. About time you used my title. The blonde turned to face front as the teacher came in the door. It took Izuku 5 minutes to realize Kaken had made a joke. He hoped. Honestly with Kaken it could go either way. Izuku read every article he could about Heart Flame, but they were all the same. He was convicted. He was in Tartarus. He was a one-off. So sad a good hero had gone bad. Such a shame. Chisholm sat in the sand next to him and asked, what are you growling about, little hero? It didn't work. Izuku admitted. Chisholm just cocked his head. People were supposed to notice the rot. See the pattern. Start pushing the people at the top for change. But nothing has changed. They think it's an isolated incident. I was wrong. He felt tears on his cheeks and dashed them away harshly with his sleeve. My plan. Something wasn't right. Some calculations were off. I messed it up. A sob caught in his chest. I thought we could make such a big difference. Chisholm put a large hand on his back and shook his head, you've made a difference. Your plan got him arrested. The police actually listened and acted on your information. I don't think you understand how huge that is, little hero. You got the police to act against a hero. On the word and proof from a vigilante. And you did it in a way that the commission couldn't sweep it under the rug. But heart flame is just a symptom. The infection isn't getting treated because the symptom went away. Izuku pressed. Look at this. They're just ignoring everything that allowed him to do what he did for so long. I should have thought of this, should have figured out a way to. Your plan is working fine. Chisholm promised him. Change is a gradual thing. The infection didn't start all at once, the cure won't work all at once. But it will work. Do you know how long I've fought to try to make people notice? Years. I dropped out of hero school because of it. I preached about it on the streets. I acted against it as Stendhal. And in one act, you have done more than I ever did. Izuku blinked and took a shuddering breath. It's working, little hero. You are one of the most intelligent people I know, and your plan proves that. It will work. With time. We just need to show them more false heroes. Enough so that they can't ignore that there's a problem. Just so. And in the meantime, you will only get stronger and more able. Hope you didn't have any plans anytime soon. Izuku joked flatly. But he did feel better. It wasn't a failure. It wasn't even a setback. Just a longer road than he'd imagined. But hey, Izuku could face long roads, there was even a light at the end of this one. Over the next few months, Izuku forgot what downtime felt like. He trained every spare moment, even used his free weights one-handed while he ate and studied. If he was reading, he held his book and performed squats. He practiced the air chair drill during class, 1 hour off and 1 hour on, which ended in some interesting moments when he was startled or his legs gave out while the teacher was talking. He started and ended his day with a jog and yoga to stretch out and cool down. The beach was better by the day. Though Izuku had to work harder and harder as the small pieces were all collected, leaving only the larger ones. Chisholm had managed to get a dumpster dropped in a parking spot nearby, but it was far enough that it was a chore to get things to. Izuku knew that was the point and focused on training and not complaining. Then there was the sparring. Chisholm taught him hand to hand, he taught him how to use a sword and knives. Izuku loved knife throwing practice the best. You're improving quickly with thrown weapons. Chisholm noted one day when he found Izuku taking a break to practice with the knives his teacher had gifted him, throwing them into a target he'd drawn on an old junk dining table. Izuku blushed at the praise. Once I got the basics down, I realized it's all calculations, distance and rotations and trajectory. I'm good at that stuff. Chisholm nodded, picked up a plastic bottle and threw it into the air. Hit it. Izuku wasn't fast enough, the knife cut nothing but air and the bottle dropped unmolested. Okay. We'll add that to your training. His sensei nodded. From that day on, Izuku kept his knives on him because randomly throughout the rest of his training, he'd hear, hit it, in his teacher's gravelly voice and had to find the target and release a knife quickly. He was getting better and it definitely helped his situational awareness. Hot showers and baths became the best part of his day, letting the muscles soak and unknot. His mom even got some bath salts that really helped. He didn't sleep so much as pass out until his alarm told him to get to work. Izuku had never enjoyed his days so much. He felt closer to his dream than ever before. Instead of just dreaming it, he was manifesting it. His body was starting to get defined, muscles strong and visible. Some of the kids at school even commented on it when they changed for gym class. Not to him, of course, but Izuku heard it. His mom noticed and became his biggest cheerleader. She stuck fast to the nutrition plan Chisholm had created for him, made sure he was in bed at the proper time, and took out his uniform when his shoulders and thighs got too broad. Izuku had never seen someone so smugly, but his mom managed it perfectly. Like every added inch she gave for his newly forming muscles was a victory to shove in the face of his detractors. Labrava had needed to take out his costume a little too. She joked and swung on his arm noting the changes. Your waist is still so small. But your chest. I'm going to need to take your waistcoat out in the shoulders. Thank you very much, Labrava. He bowed to her and she laughed at his formality. The costume fitting is no trouble, I knew when I made it that you were a growing boy. She smiled and you can call me Manami when we're in private, Izuku. I don't mind. Izuku was confused, but Gentle always calls you Labrava. I thought you preferred it. Gentle likes who we are better than who we were, she sighed. That's why I call him Gentle, Tabita is like his alternate persona now. Tabita's life was a hard one. Gentle's life is better. I don't mind what I'm called one way or the other, but the option is there if you want it. He opened his mouth, not sure how to respond, when Gentle entered the room and saved him from having to say something. Gentle came over, handed him a cup of tea and a file, then looked over the garments being altered. Ah, magnificent work as always, Labrava. No doubt more alterations will be needed in the future. It is simply a part of the process. Gentle motioned to the file and added, we've finalized information gathering on the latest target. Is Blacklist ready for the next job? He was more than ready. The media coverage of Heartflame had slowed after his trial and conviction. They'd found the missing girls, though only one had been alive. Blacklist, the team, not just Izuku, had easily brought 2 other heroes to justice in the months since then. Each got attention for a bit, the videos were shared and went viral. People were still talking, but they were talking like each one was an isolated incident. The exception, not the rule. So they kept pushing forward. There would come a tipping point when people couldn't hold on to their illusions. They just had to keep working toward it. Izuku panted as he bounced on the elastic air left in Gentle's wake. You know, he huffed into his earpiece, I was just thinking about how nice it was that my bullies have backed off and school is peaceful at last. But I think that peace is just to make up for nights like this. Save your breath, Blacklist. You're already so tired. Labrava begged him. She was right. Izuku's muscles were already sore from the day's training. Now his legs and stomach were screaming at him. It was supposed to have been a simple in and out plan. Nightlight wasn't even in the city. She was off at a retreat of some kind and her home was wide open for them. Her alarm was state of the art, yes, but no match for Labrava. Once inside, they'd recovered her financial records and evidence of art and jewelry thefts that Nightlight had blamed on the criminals she was chasing and occasionally innocent civilians. Some of the pieces were still in her home and Labrava had gotten footage of all of them to include in the final video. The records were thorough, even the sold objects would hopefully be retrievable. In fact, their retrieval might offer the police an in to start dismantling the local black market. They'd planned it all perfectly. They hadn't planned for a racerhead. The underground hero had caught sight of them leaving via the fire escape with their satchels full of the evidence and smaller items they'd found. He instantly gave chase. I'll be okay. He panted, go on without me, get that stuff safe. The mission is more important. Eraserhead is an honorable hero. Hopefully I can talk my way out of this if he catches me. When he catches me. I'm nowhere near his level, but I can slow him down and let them escape. Brava whispered something to Gentle. Once he nodded to whatever she'd said, she called back to Izuku, I love you, Blacklist. The jolt he felt wasn't natural. The warmth of their friendship became a tangible thrum of energy. It enveloped Izuku, strengthened him. A muted glow surrounded him, and Izuku's exhaustion was replaced with vitality. Izuku gave a loud cheer. He bounced where he remembered their getaway platforms were and shot in the opposite direction of his friends, back the way they'd come and past the hero. Eraserhead swore and spun, but he was using his capture scarf to maneuver and couldn't just change course, so Izuku managed to put more distance between them. Because of the tagline he used in the videos before, people had started to think Blacklist was the leader of the Blacklisters, the media's brainchild, not his. The pro hero was picking the bigger target since he had to choose one. Too bad, Eraserhead. Wrong choice. He jumped hard, launching himself onto Nightlight's building and then down the alley onto the air they'd used to get out of the window. The plan was to bounce across the street, hit the ground rolling and hopefully disappear down the maze of alleys there, since Eraserhead wouldn't know about the option to bounce and would therefore have to deal with traffic, heavy even so late at night that deep inside the city. It was a great plan, but before he finished that final jump, the pro's capture weapon shot forward and wrapped around him. Izuku was pulled from the elastic air and into nothing, swinging wildly and slamming into the side of the brick building with a grunt. Eraserhead swore and jumped from the roof to grab him before he hit the building again. The hero used the other end of his scarf to wrap around something on the roof behind him and lowered them both safely to the ground. Izuku groaned and struggled, but the cloth held him fast. Eraserhead's hair raised, but the glow Labrava had given him didn't go away. What the hell? You're immune to my quirk. How? Izuku's arm hurt a lot. Instead of dealing with the hero's confusion, he collapsed to the sidewalk awkwardly. Ouch, Izuku breathed, leaning against the brickwork. He was terrified and elated at the same time. Yeah, he'd just been caught breaking the law, and if he didn't escape and got taken to the police his mom was going to be furious, but OMG his inner fanboy was crowing. I didn't want to get caught, but this is still so cool. I know this isn't the time or place, but I can't help it, you're one of my favorite heroes, Eraserhead. The way you fight, almost quirkless, it gave me a lot of hope when I learned about you. You're an inspiration to a lot of people even if they don't know your name. The pro tensed at his babble. You're a child. He freed Izuku from the capture scarf, and Izuku tried not to flinch when that jostled his arm. What is a child doing breaking into a hero's home? Izuku groaned. Getting caught, apparently, but I had a good reason for doing it. Please, hear me out. He looked around and added, maybe not in the middle of the street. I'm a wanted criminal after all. Blacklist. Eraserhead rubbed his temples like this was giving him a headache. Blacklist is a child. He looked at Izuku's arm and sighed, and I dislocated your shoulder. Honestly, I think that was more the building's doing. I have a thing for trying to use buildings to hurt myself. Oh my god, Izuku. Shut up. The pro took his arm, bent it at the elbow, pulled and lifted. Izuku screamed, but after that flare of agony it felt so much better. Thank you. We need to get that looked at, just because it's back in the socket doesn't mean it's okay. Eraserhead had a crease in his brow, worry, maybe. Before Izuku could comment though, the pro had grabbed him by the waist and used the capture weapon to pull them both up to the rooftop again where he carefully released Izuku and then stepped back. Where are your parents, kid? It's just my mom and I, she's at home. She doesn't know. She thinks I'm staying over at a friend's house. And instead of that completely acceptable activity you are. Izuku blushed, luckily all but his red-tipped ears were hidden by the gas mask. Gathering evidence that a pro-hero framed innocent people for the theft of high-priced items so she could steal them and sell them on the black market to finance a more lavish lifestyle than her paycheck allowed. He kicked himself for making it sound like a question, but it was Eraserhead. He was there, large as life, right in front of him. Izuku felt instantly like the kid he was. The pro's hair fell and Izuku could have laughed. Because Labrava's quirk effects hadn't been nullified, he hadn't even noticed erasure was active again. I guess Labrava has to be erased to nullify the effects, not me. Cool. I wonder if that means he can't erase Gentle's platforms unless he gets Gentle. That's really good to know. Eraserhead sighed and sat on the roof beside him, motioning for the bag. What was he meant to do? Grapple him for it? Even with the enhancements he doubted that would be successful, especially with his dubiously fixed shoulder. Izuku handed it over. The older man searched through the satchel, rifling through the sales lists and records, and palming a large diamond that had gone missing from a jewelry store a few weeks before. Nightlight had apprehended the villains, but it was thought that one had gotten away with some of the inventory. I'm going to give it to the police, I swear. Once you've made your video. He nodded, yes. That was the plan. What's your name, kid? Blacklist. The hero raised his goggles and gave Izuku a thoroughly unimpressed look. He reminded him of a teacher dealing with a stubborn student. Funny. Listen, I know this is technically against the law, but the heroes I'm going after are acting like the law isn't even there. I'm not hurting them, just revealing them, and I always check my facts well before I go after someone. Like heart flame. He winced, okay, I didn't do that. He heard himself jumping out the window after me. Izuku defended. 25 dead women were found based on what we recovered. How many more would there have been if we hadn't stepped in? We. The hero noted. Blacklist is my name, but also my team. Poor kids. Izuku shrugged. This isn't a game, Blacklist. You could get hurt. Izuku guessed Eraserhead was trying to be a good hero, talking the poor kid off of a bad path, but Izuku wasn't on a bad path, just one less traveled. A lot of people are getting hurt. One of the innocent people Nightlight framed was a father of 4, his wife is in the hospital because she tried to stop the police from taking him and got hurt. The kids are in foster care, their lives are in chaos, and he didn't do anything. Nightlight did. That's only the person I started with. There are dozens more. Some have spent decades in jail. Some are dead. She's been doing this a long time, and someone at the Hero Commission is taking a cut and keeping quiet. While he spoke, his earpiece crackled to life. Blacklist, the others are back at base, safe. I'm in the alley to your right. Waiting for a signal. It was Stain. Perfect. That is a strong allegation. We have proof. Kid, why don't you hand what you have over? I'll pursue it. You're making powerful enemies doing this kind of thing. If you can't get away from me, you won't get away from them. Izuku took a deep breath. I'm really sorry, Eraserhead. You really are one of the coolest heroes ever, and you're a really great guy. But I'm not alone. He looked over the pro's shoulder, and when the man turned, Izuku dove forward with his knives and La Brava enhanced speed. Eraserhead moved the capture weapon to block one knife and changed the trajectory of the other with a tap on Izuku's wrist. He is so cool. Izuku slammed himself into the pro, as if he was trying to get away. In an effort to catch him, Eraserhead let one of the knives through his defense. Izuku managed a shallow cut, and when the pro tightened his hold, the greenette threw the bloodied knife off the building, as if his hand had slipped in the tussle. He went limp and Eraserhead disarmed the second blade before pressing Izuku face first onto the roof. I'm trying to help you, kid. I know. And you're awesome for that, really. Izuku promised. But like I said, I'm not alone. The pro blinked and then stilled, paralyzed. Izuku caught the hero on his way down and gently placed him on the roof. He took the capture weapon from Eraserhead's neck and gathered it beneath the man's head like a pillow. Izuku collected his bag and everything Eraserhead had taken from it and made sure it was zipped up. Kid. The hero tried again. Izuku smiled, he hoped it was visible in his eyes. He fetched some antibacterial ointment from the first aid kit he kept in his bag's outer pocket and tended the scratch he'd given the pro. The city was dirty, and Eraserhead didn't seem like the type of guy to worry about washing his cuts. Not all heroes are licensed, Eraser, he said as he finished, and not all are grown-ups. But all of us are working hard to keep people safe. Thank you for worrying about me. Then he jumped, it was only a couple stories, and Stain was there to catch him. Izuku. You're safe. La Brava hugged him, and Gentle put a steadying hand on his shoulder when he and Chisholm walked through the door. Yeah, he breathed, Chisholm saved me. Chisholm snorted, I helped you escape. You got the blood to me. Good job, little hero. Izuku blushed and removed his mask. That was. I don't know what that was. The victory. Gentle proclaimed it and passed them both some tea. Cheers. To our latest job, well done. Not done yet, Gentle. La Brava noted, sifting through everything they'd recovered. It will be at least another week before we can release the video. We'll need to hunt down every person Nightlight's framed and figure out what happened to them, criminals and innocents alike. Izuku added his portion of the papers to the pile she had yet to go through. I didn't realize, going in, just how far-reaching the consequences of her actions were. We only had the one complaint. Chisholm snorted, when a hero decides they're above the law, they never hurt just one person, just one family. They become an infection pumping poison into the heart of the country and the true heroes trying to protect it. Izuku felt sick. I'm sorry I used my quirk on you without asking. La Brava apologized all of a sudden. I can give the people I love a boost by telling them I love them. I hoped it would help you get away, but I've only used it for Gentle, and the difference between romantic love and loving someone like a little brother must change the parameters of my quirk. I'm sorry. I never knew. It was okay, Minami. He tried her name, but it sounded wrong on his tongue, her lips twitched like she'd heard the hesitation, but couldn't quite manage a smile at the moment. I appreciate that you tried. It felt really nice, and I did feel stronger and faster. More awake and aware too. And apparently erasure doesn't work on gifted enhancements unless Eraserhead uses it on the one with the quirk. So it confused the hell out of him. And I'm super honored to be counted as a loved one. She sighed sadly but accepted his comfort. We'll practice with it, okay? Like you did with Gentle, so we know how my quirk can help you next time and you know what to expect. Izuku smiled wide, looking forward to it. What do we do while you gather information on the victims? Tism put his hand on the shoulder Gentle wasn't holding. You train. Izuku groaned, but he was still smiling. I should go to a clinic or something. That's the shoulder Eraserhead dislocated. The large man lifted his hand away quickly and bundled Izuku off to an underground doctor. It didn't take long, but by the time it was over, he was beyond out of it. Chisholm may have been half carrying him on the way back to Gentle's home. At that night, even the thin guest futon on Gentle's floor felt amazing. Shota Izawa, best known as Eraserhead, was sore, frustrated, and more tired than normal. That was saying something since he was always tired. He was quiet opening the apartment door, but the lights were on. Azashi was standing in the kitchen, holding out a cup of coffee. The tired hero took the mug and downed the steaming liquid in one go, not even minding that it was black. It had obviously been meant for the energetic blonde. Wait, energetic. Zashi, what time is it? Green eyes looked concerned and Hazashi filled the mug again, this time doctoring it with the copious amount of cream and sugar that Shota liked. 5. I was just getting breakfast started since you were out so late. Shota growled, get out of the kitchen. But Hazashi whined. No. You're eating a real breakfast, not cake and coffee. Hazashi smiled and kissed him softly. He tasted like coffee, so he must have been up for a while. Possibly worried about him. Damn it, I should have called. They're pancakes, not cake, you heathen. And don't worry. I was planning on Amurus, the rice cooker is already going. Have I mentioned lately that I love you? His loud blonde husband laughed and returned to cooking as he answered, maybe once or twice. I need to say it more often. He murmured, leaning against his husband's strong back and sighing. He was exhausted, but food was a good idea and Hazashi only cooked respectable food when he was worried about Shota. I'm okay, Zashi. I promise. I know, I'm just being clingy. You're usually in bed by 3. I missed you when I woke up. I found Blacklist. They're going after Nightlight. They have a compelling case. The blonde hummed and dished Shota's breakfast up, patiently leading him to the table and fetching him his third coffee. God, he loved this man. Did you have to stay late at the station for something? Shota sighed and tucked into the food, mumbling between bites. Didn't go to the station. They got away. Zashi stared at him. Blacklist is a kid, Zashi. I'm guessing middle school. There may be more kids in the group too, he wouldn't say. Holy shit, Yeah. He seemed to have some kind of augmentation quirk, for some reason erasure didn't affect it. And I think he's working with Stendhal. The vigilante with the blood quirk. Shota nodded and paused when a large calico cat rubbed against his leg. He reached down to scratch the thick fur and behind twitching ears, mourning, dumpster. Hazashi made an annoyed sound, as usual, but didn't comment. Shota had won the right to name the cat. Blacklist managed to cut me, but he tossed the knife off the side of the building. I'm guessing Stendhal was waiting below because I ended up paralyzed. He got me once before, years ago, it felt the same. Hazashi whistled, Stendhal, gentle criminal and La Brava, huh? I don't get the feeling that he's leading them. Shota shook his head. It almost seemed like he was talking about family. He kept telling me he wasn't alone. He also apologized for attacking me. You think he got recruited for some reason? His quirk wasn't very powerful, it just seemed like a boost of energy, like an adrenaline shot. He even mentioned that my fighting Quirkless gave him hope, so I'm guessing it hasn't been very useful to him. He might have other skills they wanted him for though. I don't know. Oh. You gave him hope. You have a little fan. See? This is why you need merch. Underground, Zashi. Merch defeats the purpose. He sighed. I've been trying to find him again all night. No luck. Hazashi joined him at the table with his own plate. By the time I could move they were long gone or well hidden. You'll have another chance, Don't let it get you down. At least you know the kid can take care of himself, he got away from you after all. Shota had tried to think that way, but the enemies the kid was making weren't underground heroes with insomnia and a caffeine addiction, they were linked to the HPSC, and the commission had hounds that made Eraserhead look like a first-year student. They wouldn't hesitate to send those hounds after a kid, no matter how young, if he threatened their bottom line. And Blacklist most definitely did that. Hazashi took his hand and Shota shook his head. Sorry Zashi. He mumbled, just tired. Hazashi grinned, so nothing new. Shota grinned back and stood to take his dish to the sink. I'm going to take a shower and sleep for a couple hours. Asashi stole a kiss as he passed and nodded, sleep until the very last minute. I'll drive us to work this morning. I choose life. Hey. My driving isn't bad. Hisashi pouted. Hisashi's driving wasn't bad at all, not like when they were kids. But much like Dumpster the cat, it was something Shota would never let him live down. That fruit stand begs otherwise. I was 17. I'll never eat strawberries again. He teased, walking into the bathroom to start the shower. Show. Stepping under the hot spray, Shota thought back to the wide green eyes of the child he'd let slip through his fingers. He wouldn't have even turned him in. He just wanted to help him. And again, with the work blacklisted, was it any wonder he didn't trust heroes? He acted like a fan, though. He knew me. That's so strange. I don't have merch, I'm rarely even mentioned by name in the news. Have I rescued him before? Has he seen me fight somehow without my noticing? Or has he researched heroes operating in the area? He fought like a newbie. He hasn't been training long. But he's smart. He made that knife throw look accidental so I wouldn't intercept it. He also worked well with gentle criminals Quirk. They are a cohesive and effective team. They'd make good heroes. But they couldn't take down the commission as heroes, could they? Is that their endgame? It's a dangerous goal for grown men and women, let alone a child. Blacklist. I'm going to earn your trust. And I'm going to save you. He rinsed off and walked to the bedroom, toweling his hair off as he went. The bed was turned down, his sleep pants laid out for him, and a present Mikta Kimakura was tucked in on Hisashi's side of the bed. Shota called out to the other room, "You're ridiculous." Hisashi called back, "You love me." He really did. Oh hey. Speaking of the hero commission, I got some news. Except when he's wide awake and I'm trying to sleep. Yeah. Shota slipped into bed and yawned. Yeah. Hisashi, Quirk. Sorry. The blonde walked in to lean against the bedroom doorway. Nezu's been having a field day with the commission. Nezu's technically part of the commission. Yeah, the only part that's okay with having a quirkless kid in a hero school. What? Shota wanted to give the conversation more attention, but he was exhausted and sleep was pulling hard at his consciousness. The quirkless kid applied to UA for next year. The commission tried to put the kibosh on it, but Nezu was like any child can be a hero, and the HPSC tried to be all new, so Nezu's leading them around by the nose now. They're right in his pocket and haven't realized it yet. They'll be agreeing to everything he wants in no time. Sounds like Nezu. Oh shit. Sorry, Sho. I'll let you sleep. Love you. A quirkless hero student. I want them in my class. Shota thought tiredly. An enhancement quirked kid immune to erasure deciding to work as a vigilante while a quirkless one is aiming to be a hero. Strange world. He snuggled the body pillow of his husband, it was comfortable, that was all. If Hisashi took pictures, there would be blood. After meeting Eraserhead, Izuku was more than happy to focus on training and school while La Brava worked on the video. He'd been lucky, that was the only reason he wasn't in custody now. Hit it. Izuku spun and released a knife the minute he saw a colored spot against the blue sky. The bottle fell. His knife stuck soundly in the plastic body. Chisholm grinned, "Well done little hero." Izuku soaked up the praise like a sponge. "You've only been working for 4 months, but your effort is apparent in the results." "Thank you, Chisholm-sensei." He bounced. "You have too much energy now after a full day of training. You're ready to step it up." "Yes, sensei." Chisholm stared at him. "You're agreeable today. I'm excited to learn what's next." What was next was an increase in weights and speed for his jogging, more advanced yoga and other stretches, but the best part was the new combat training. They were practicing grappling, pinning, and throwing. Or they were supposed to be. Chisholm spent the whole week teaching Izuku how to fall. He threw himself at the ground, stood, and did it again. Over and over and over. He threw himself down on dirt, sand, concrete, blacktop, wood, metal, all sorts of surfaces. Then Chisholm started throwing him and watching him land. Izuku was a jolly mess of bruises, but he had learned. He could hit the ground rolling and pop back up. Once Chisholm was confident that he could fall very well, he started teaching him to throw. No matter how hard you train, your strength will always be limited because your body has limitations. You need to use your opponent's weight and movement against them. Doing so you will be able to take down people much larger and stronger than you. Sleeve and shirt are the easiest grips, hold onto the sleeve and drop them near you to move into a capture, or throw them far and hard to give you a chance to run. Izuku tried and failed to move the mountain that was Chisholm. His teacher laughed at him. Izuku huffed and tried to figure out what went wrong. "Your stance is too solid. You aren't letting me use anything against you." "Very good. So, what should you do?" He tried swiping at his legs but couldn't budge him. Pulling at him to disrupt his center of gravity, no motion. Locking one leg behind his and pulling his whole weight back, nothing. Chisholm weighed at least triple what Izuku did. Then the greenette got an idea. He slipped the hand that was holding his teacher's sleeve at the elbow up into his armpit and wriggled his fingers around. Chisholm jumped and let out a startled huff, and Izuku used the motion to launch him over his shoulder. He gave a whoop of triumph and did a little victory dance, enjoying the last moments of his life, seeing as he just tickle-attacked Stain. Stain, who was laying on his back absolutely guffawing. The man was laughing so hard his body shook. Not where I was going with that lesson, but effective. Chisholm finally got his laughter under control and threw Izuku's sweat towel at him. "Brat." Izuku grinned. "Again?" Izuku groaned. "Did you see the news?" One of his classmates asked another while they changed for gym class. Blacklist struck again. Nightlight was arrested yesterday. She was an art thief. Can you believe it? I mean, I could believe the theft part, but did you hear about the people she framed for it? Some of them died in prison, and they were innocent. How did they even know? There are all sorts of theories. My sister thinks Blacklist is really another hero, working with villains since they can't confront the Hero Commission directly. No, my brother says they're an office worker in one of the big agencies and they use that to look into confidential files. Someone else piped up, they're obviously a villain, trying to destroy hero society by cherry-picking the worst cases to show us and make us doubt everyone. But isn't it healthy to question? I mean, they've been averaging like a hero a month, so there must be a lot of bad ones to pick from. Stupid extras. Kakin slammed his fist into one of the lockers and the other students stopped lagging and scattered toward the exit. They're all heroes people mentioned in YouTube comments. Morons. Doesn't take a genius. He huffed after them. Specifically, they were all comments from the video of Kakin and I. Has he noticed? Kakin is really smart, it wouldn't surprise me, but why hasn't he said something then? Does he know I'm a part of it? Maybe we should start on the heroes from later videos to put a gap between me and them, but my face wasn't in the rescue video. But the heroes know it was me there. Can it be linked back to me? I need to be more careful. Brava had altered his voice in every clip to make him sound older, and Izuku had been really careful about his appearance since that first video. He used a gel that made his hair look black and gentle styled it in waves similar to his own hair, taming Izuku's curls before filming. The hair had been the only giveaway, and in the first video it had only been slightly visible under the hood. Even Eraserhead hadn't known he was a child until they'd been face to face in person. But Kakin wasn't a stranger, he knew Izuku. He'd known him practically their whole lives. If anyone was going to figure him out it would be the explosive boy in front of him. Oh god, what am I gonna do? Kakin flopped on the bench beside him once all the other kids were gone and commented without looking his way, "You have a lot of fucking bruises lately, Deku." Izuku pulled his gym shirt on and laughed nervously. "Ah. Why? Yeah. Training. Chisholm-sensei has been teaching me to fall." The blonde turned to stare at him. Those red eyes burned into the side of Izuku's face even though he refused to look. "It's fine, Kakin. TCH. Like I care." The angry blonde stood and stormed out. Izuku smiled warmly in the solitude for a while before joining his classmates outside. His feelings were decidedly less warm that evening when he found Kakin leaning against a light post across the street from the beach dumpster during his strength training. Izuku heaved the large tires he was carrying up and over into the bin, then stood staring until the other boy approached him. The blonde struck a haughty pose, walking in that funny, stiff-kneed way he did when he was showing people how impressive he was. He'd done it since they were kids, and it took everything Izuku had not to laugh out loud at it. Auntie Mitsuki called it his gremlin walk, and Izuku would never unhear that comment. "Figured I'd see this amazing sensei of yours. If he's real." Kakin huffed, "Then I find you slinging garbage." "He still thinks I'm being bullied." Izuku felt warm inside. "He's looking out for me. This is strength training. I focus on this first, then sparring, then more of this, yoga, a jog home, and stretching. Training with trash." Kakin scoffed, "Sounds perfect for you, Deku." The large hand grabbed Kakin by the back of the neck and slammed him down face first into the sand. "What did you call my student?" Chisholm asked calmly. "Chisholm-sensei. This is my friend Kakin. I mean Bakugo Katsuki. He's called me Deku since we were kids." "That doesn't make it right, little hero." Chisholm growled. "What the fuck, Deku? Is this the guy giving you bruises?" Kakin struggled. Chisholm let go and the blonde snarled and sputtered. The vigilante took in the angry blonde and then glanced at Izuku in confusion. Like he'd just realized something. "He's worried about you." Kakin growled, "The fuck I am." But yeah, he was. And Izuku was really happy about that. Maybe their friendship wasn't completely dead. Chisholm stared at Kakin like he was something foreign and not quite understandable. "HN. Come on then. Bakugo, can you fight?" The blonde snorted, "Of course I can fight." The large man nodded and motioned to Izuku, "Then fight him." Izuku, no weapons, Bakugo, no quirk. Go. Hakken didn't hesitate, I'm gonna win. He led with his usual large right hook. Izuku knew it was coming though. He grabbed his sleeve and shirt, pivoted, and threw Kakken over his shoulder hard into the ground. They hadn't gone over holds and locks very well yet, so while Izuku tried to restrain Kakken's hands, the other boy bent impossibly and used his long legs to break free. Both boys wrestled for control on the ground before Izuku managed a jab into Kakken's ribs, distracting him long enough for Izuku to roll away and get to his feet. Winning yet, Kakken? He teased, knowing Kakken would swing another wide punch when he got mad. He didn't though, he kicked. Izuku swept low and took out his supporting leg, but took the hard kick to the shoulder in doing so. Fucking Deku. Kakken hit the sand, rolled, and sprung right back at him. Izuku smiled and lunged to the side to avoid the powerful tackle. Kakken was smiling too. He'd always loved a challenge, and Izuku had been working hard enough to be that challenge for him. Kizum watched their fight with interest, noting good hits and tactics, and calling out when something was sloppy. Finally, he called a stop to things. Izuku and Kakken were both panting, covered in sand, sweat, and small injuries. Not bad. But not good either. We still have a lot to work on. Izuku looked between Chisum and Kakken in question. You need to learn to fight with people your own size, as well as larger. If your friend wants to join in on your evening combat training, I don't mind. This was fun and all, but it's useless to me. Kakken shrugged, I have a quirk. A strong one. If I had used that in our fight I would have dominated. Oh? Chisum asked. Show me. Kakken thrust his hand out, palm up, and let loose a series of explosions. Impressive. But not unbeatable, not on its own. The blonde scoffed at the thought. Chisum grinned, come at me then, child. Your quirk against quirkless combat. Kakken's expression was manic as he dove into the fight, but Chisum lunged forward as well. Before Kakken could fire off an explosion, his hand was knocked aside. Again and again. He growled in frustration. Fight me for real. With a shrug, Chisum struck a palm into Kakken's chest. It knocked the wind from his lungs. He had the angry boy in a solid hold. His face pressed into the sand for the second time that evening. What the fuck? Kakken snarled, you cheated somehow. No, Chisum denied. I know how to fight. It isn't impossible for a quirkless combatant to win against a strong quirk. Not with training on their side. It's even easier with support gear. There are strong quirks on every corner of Japan, some stronger than others, yes, but even the strongest of them isn't invincible. If they think they are, that is when they fall the easiest. Kakken's eyes were on fire in defiance. Do you think you'll be at the top of the food chain once you've gotten into UA? Have you ever taken a self-defense class? Martial arts? I guarantee some of them have. Children of current heroes will be there. Children who have already started training, not for months, but for years. You're about to start swimming in a very large pond compared to your little pool. The defiance flickered, and Izuku could see Kakken was actively listening. He was hearing Chisum's argument and understanding it. You have an opportunity here, but I won't force you. Little hero will have this training with or without you. Izuku smiled, he knew Kakken's answer after that comment. Kakken looked contemplative. What do you charge? Chisum grinned, I'm not doing this for money. I'm training a future hero. You came to see that he wasn't being abused. That is also heroic. I don't mind training too. The blonde looked like he wasn't sure if he wanted to preen or scowl. Besides, I'm not a licensed trainer. Just a vigilante wanting to make the world better. Chisum-sensei. Izuku looked between him and Kakken with wide eyes. Kakken just grinned. Fucking called it. Then gave a dismissive wave, I'll be back tomorrow, Deku, get ready to lose. When he was gone, Izuku spun on Chisum with wide eyes, why did you tell him? He knew. He's been spying on our training for a while now, he just let himself be seen this time. My guess is he recognized you in the videos one way or another and he's been keeping an eye on you. Making sure you weren't drawn into this against your will. But he doesn't want to know for sure because being tangled up in this could hurt his chances at UA if this gets out. Izuku smiled, Kakken is smart. Really smart. He'll be a good friend to have in your corner in case things go badly. He's already protective of you. He paused, I'm confused, though. Gentle said you had no friends outside of our team. Izuku blushed, Kakken was my best friend back in preschool. When his quirk came in and mine didn't, things changed. He bullied you? Chisum guessed, that's where the name Deku came from. Yeah. Beat me up, destroyed my things, turned the school against me, mocked me. I still followed him though. He's always been amazing. It's just who he is. I wanted so badly to just be his friend. He hated me for a long time, but after the sludge villain. We aren't back to being the kind of friends we were. But he came to my house to talk. And maybe we'll find a way to be something like it again. Chisum glanced in the same direction Izuku was for a long while. He's growing. Yes. Izuku smiled. His teacher seemed distant. I have a lot to consider. Go back to strength training for tonight. Jism. He made a dismissive gesture. I'm fine, little hero. Just dealing with a paradigm shift. Nothing to worry about. Izuku hesitated still, it looked like a big shift. Chisholm looked like the floor had been yanked out from under him. His teacher ruffled Izuku's hair and ordered, go. It's a good thing, I think. Just give me my space, little hero. This isn't going to be as straightforward as the last few. Izuku noted, going through the file Labrava had put together on their latest target. Their rooftop meeting place was usually full of pre-mission giddiness, but this one was a lot. Yeah. The usually bubbly girl was glaringly tired. It seemed like he was running a prostitution ring at first, but that's only surface level. It's human trafficking for overseas quirk marriages. Mail order brides, they aren't willing. Looks like most of his clients are in America even. We can bring him down, but I don't think we'll be getting the victims back. It's international. We can stop it from happening to more people, though. Yes. Gentle put his hands on Labrava's shoulders. You have done wonders, Labrava. We will make sure to use your gift to its fullest potential. Izuku nodded, we can do this. It's just a little more legwork than usual. It looks like we have 4 places where there may be proof. His secondary office, home, a warehouse he owns and a shipping company. It's more work, but by my analysis of Razor's Edge, he won't be as problematic as most. He can produce razor-like blades from his body, but they harm him too. He has to act fast and hard before blood loss becomes an issue. He bleeds from his quirk. He looked at Chisholm, perfect match-up, don't you think? We'll have to hit them all in one night, if he gets wind of this, he'll just disappear the evidence. Labrava cautioned. Chisholm nodded direly, and that includes anyone still being held for shipment. Izuku bit his lip. If we each hit one place, but Labrava and I aren't used to working solo. We could pair off and each take 2. The problem is that you don't have enough members. A new voice spoke up, and while Izuku whirled, the other 3 calmly turned to face it. He flushed and took a moment to be thankful he was wearing his mask. There was a man sitting on top of the little box holding the door to the rest of the building. He was in a long and ragged black coat, all of his clothing was ragged, honestly. He had black hair and scars over his face, neck and hands like skin grafts that had been. Are those staples? And you wish to remedy our dilemma? Gentle criminal asked, cautiously. The man smiled, it looked creepy, but Izuku tried to push that thought away. It could just be the scars, and that was an awful thing to think about someone. Instead, he forced himself to speak, we can't pay. Everyone here is doing this to better the world, we don't make money from it. The man stared at Izuku, oh shit, you're a kid. I really need voice alteration added to this mask. Izuku grumbled. This whole endeavor was Blacklist's idea. He may be young, but he is incredibly intelligent and skilled. Gentle chided the newcomer before asking, might I request your name? Dabi, the man said, still staring at Izuku. Izuku stared back. Finally, Dabi laughed and slid down to stand with the rest of them. I don't need money. Well, okay, not gonna lie, money would be nice. Homeless isn't a great look on me. He gestured to the rags ruefully. But from you guys, no. I want to help. I know how fucked up the hero system is, and I have a big fish to bring you. Someone who will rock the world. And I have some proof. We're listening. Chisholm said, crossing his arms. Pro-hero endeavor. Izuku sucked in a breath. Dabi continued, he was trying to sound matter-of-fact, but Izuku noticed a slight tremor in his hands. Because of Kaken he was used to watching hands. Enji Todoroki engaged in a quirk marriage to have children powerful enough to beat All Might. He abusively trained one kid until it was apparent he wouldn't be strong enough. Had 2 more that didn't even merit training. Then had a 4th, the 4th kid was what he'd been looking for. He abusively trained him too. Isolated him, beat him. When their mom protested their treatment, he raged. He drove her insane and locked her up. Then he kept going. What happened to the children? Labrava gasped. The 2nd and 3rd were largely ignored and isolated from their little brother. The little brother is still being trained by Enji, but he's refusing to use his fire, so the training is getting more and more abusive. And the 1st child? Labrava asked. Dabi snarled, he burned up from the inside, trying to be strong enough for his father's notice. Labrava gasped and covered her mouth, eyes watering. Izuku shivered. And the proof. Dabi gave an exaggerated bow, and when he rose, he swept his hands up to pose, framing himself like a dancer, when you burn up, you're not always lucky enough to die. I guess we have another target. Izuku growled. Chisholm nodded, but endeavor won't go easily. It will take planning. For now, we need to focus on Razor's Edge. If Labrava and Gentle work together, and Dabi, Blacklist, and I each take a location, can we pull this off? Izuku was nervous about working alone, he'd always had one of the team with him. But the warehouse and shipping company are close to each other, so are the office and house. It should be okay. Do we know where he is tonight? He's at home. Labrava pulled out her laptop and showed the hero's security camera feed. He was. Izuku blushed and looked away. Abi looked closer. Good technique by the girl, but our hero's a pillow princess. I don't want to know what that is, I don't want to know what that is. Okay, I do. I'll Google it later. It's still a risk. Izuku tried to distract himself from the hero having sex on the screen by going through scenarios for the mission in his head. Labrava, how many people are working for him? It can't just be him. He hires temporary villain help as needed through an underground broker named Jiren. Jiren's encryptions are too much for just me to hack through, so I can't tell you how many he currently has. I have video of 12 different faces coming and going repeatedly from those 4 locations though. That's more than we can handle. Izuku shook his head. Abi looked confused. I can kill 12 easy, especially if they're just thugs. What? Wait. No. Izuku flailed, there's been some confusion here, we don't kill. The scarred man looked genuinely confused, why not? It's easy. We aren't trying to make things easy. We're trying to make things change. Izuku argued. Tism huffed, while I do lean toward killing as a solid option, Blacklist has made a good point. If we kill on a mission, we will be seen as villains, and everything we're pushing for will just become villains bullying heroes. It undermines the goal. For now. When the police stop being effective, it is still a secondary option. So. 12 guys, 1 limelight hero, no killing. Dobby rolled his eyes at the last part and groaned. At least you won't get boring. Let's see. No. No. Nope, anybody I can think of to help falls solidly in the killing category. Or they'd want payment. Izuku groaned and sat on the roof. I might have a really bad idea. Eraserhead perched on a rooftop overlooking the city. It was a mid-sized city, no bustling metropolis. He knew it well from years of patrols and missions. It shouldn't be as hard as it was to find a single vigilante. The fact that he hadn't found the kid yet did give him some hope. It could be that he didn't find him because he wasn't going out and putting himself in danger. The Blacklist videos came out about once a month. They took their time to research thoroughly before hanging each hero to be bled. Since their encounter, Shota had looked up everything he could. Whoever was digging up their information would make a good detective. They were precise and thorough, no room for error. It made sense. One wrong move and their crusade would be over. They were walking a very fine line. Tightrope walking on razor wire. It was dangerous. As Hisashi had said, the kid was good enough to get away from him that night. That didn't change the fact that he was a child. A puzzling one. But still a child. After a few hours of sleep, he'd re-examined the quirk the boy had used. It wasn't a mutation. Not with the floating hair and full body glow. There was no reason Erasure should have failed like it had. Unless it wasn't his quirk at all. He'd used it well but also seemed elated with it. As if it was new. Maybe an enhancement from someone else. His conversation with Hisashi kept coming back to mind. A quirkless kid applied to the hero course. Coincidence? There is nothing linking the two except that conversation. Still. In all his years of hero work he'd learned to trust his instincts. Occasionally, like now, they warred with logic. One thing was certain though. Coincidences were rarely coincidental. He had to earn the kid's trust. One way or another, he was in over his head. Someone climbed onto the roof with him and slipped to crouch nearby. Eraserhead turned, expecting another hero. Instead, there was Blacklist, green eyes smiling even though his face was covered. It took everything in him not to instantly restrain the tiny vigilante. The kid had come to him, which meant he needed something. Desperately enough to risk capture. What have you gotten yourself into, kid? Blacklist he tried, but he still sounded grumpy. Blacklist gave a nervous giggle and rubbed the back of his head. Ah. Hey Eraserhead. How's the thigh? You barely scratched me kid. Just enough to let Stendhal do his thing. Smart. At least I know there's one adult looking out for you. Blacklist cocked his head but didn't comment. No extra information about his group. Protective. Why are you here kid? You aren't turning yourself in, by the flicker in the shadows down there and to our right, you didn't come alone. I'd be worried, but I don't think I fit the criteria for your victims. Targets. Blacklist insisted. Why are you here? He pressed again. The kid actually sat down, kicking his legs over the roof's edge while he stared at Eraserhead. Remember when we first met, you said you were willing to help me with the last mission. Shota knew he had never said that. He had to think back on his words that night to try to figure out where the kid had pulled that from. You mean when I said to hand your evidence over and leave it to me? When I told you to get out of this vigilante business before you made enemies you couldn't fight? Blacklist's eyes were grinning again, semantics. You said you'd help me. Well. I need help. Eraserhead gave a sharp laugh and found himself grinning. This kid. What trouble are you in, problem child? Well. A false hero is running a human trafficking ring selling girls and boys to other countries for quirk marriages. We have multiple targets to hit to get the information we need, but it'll spread us too thin, and I know I'm not ready to go in alone yet. Wanna help catch the bad guy? You're the bad guy, Blacklist. The kid laughed, yeah, but I mean the real bad guy. There's a warehouse by the docks where he might be holding his latest victims. I need to get in, rescue them, get evidence, and get out. This isn't a game, kid. I know, dude. The kid kicked his legs and asked, can Eraserhead come out to play, anyway? This kid. As an underground hero, Shota didn't always catch vigilantes, honestly, he had worked with a lot of them, as long as they didn't cross certain lines. And even if he didn't help, this kid was going to go into the thick of things. I did say I was going to earn his trust. He gave a tired sigh, sure kid. The little vigilante cheered and bounced to his feet in excitement. Then he touched a device in his ear and was quickly all business as he spoke, the plan's a go. Everyone knows their targets, give us 30 minutes to get into place, then we go in. Do you all have your care packages on you? Eraserhead watched a kid and noted from the corner of his eyes that 2 of the spots of movement had vanished. The other materialized into Gentle Criminal and La Brava, who bounced on nothing and joined them on the roof. La Brava hugged Blacklist and smiled, they all have what they need. I made sure of it. We're good to go, Blacklist. He hugged her back, thank you La Brava. Gentle Criminal coughed and asked, shall we depart? Blacklist nodded, and then the 3 vigilantes in matching costumes all jumped off the roof and shot forward as if launched by something. Race you to the playground, Eraserhead. Blacklist giggled. This kid is definitely a problem child, he thought as he swung into action. The 3 moved seamlessly, no doubt or struggle to give one away as the wielder of the quirk. They landed silently on a small balcony on the side of a warehouse 30 minutes later. Gentle Criminal squeezed Blacklist's shoulder, and La Brava gave him another hug and whispered something to him. Blacklist nodded and activated his quirk, that glow suffusing his body, his hair blowing in a non-existent wind. Ready to play? The kid whispered. Eraserhead sighed. You'll draw them right to you, lit up like that. Do it. I'll take them by surprise. How many are we expecting? We have a very rough estimate of 12, but don't know how they might be spread out. 12 isn't bad. Let's go. Izuku ran through the warehouse using La Brava's gifted speed. He'd taken out a couple guards by himself, leaving the tougher ones for Eraserhead. 5 down by his count and the upper level was cleared. He jumped down to the first floor, once again thanking La Brava silently for the enhancements that let him do so without injury. He landed on the shoulders of a villain, kicking sideways and knocking him out. He zip-tied his hands and feet and kept moving. In his comms he could hear the others at their locations. Some small scuffles, Dobby complaining to himself, but no signs of trouble. Good. We can do this. La Brava's gift would only last 5 minutes. He had to make them count. It was harder to clear the downstairs portion of the warehouse. There was more area to cover and the lights were off down there, so he was working only by his glow. The sound of screams told him Eraserhead was making it work just fine. Just as his glow faded, Izuku saw a villain charging him. He yelped but reached out in the blackness, grabbed, twisted, and threw. It worked. Just like in practice. He called out, Eraserhead, incoming. And bounced in glee at the villain's yelp of shock, sure the hero had caught him. What happened to your light, kid? Eraserhead called. Izuku sighed and fished out his flashlight. It has a really short time limit. I'm spent. It was the first bit of personal information he'd given the hero, and it was technically correct. He went back to the fallen villains, better restrained them, and searched each pocket for keys. Note to self. Learn how to pick locks, just in case. The keys were on the second villain he'd taken down, all the way back upstairs. With the lights on up there, he pocketed the flashlight, took up the keys and started with the leftmost door. I'm going to start the search. Can you watch my back and keep an ear out for any new villains showing up? I can help you with more than that, you know. Eraserhead pressed. I know, and I'm sure you're going to. It's just, those are my weak areas, so I'm asking and I'm trusting you. At my back Izuku muttered the last and opened the door into what looked like a file room. Eraserhead was grinning, he could feel it. Just for tonight. The hero responded, if you say so, kid. Izuku slowly filled his satchel with pages upon pages of damning evidence. The codes La Brava had dug up worked on the safe and he just took it all, he'd sort through it later. They still hadn't found the victims, and that worried him. Did we wait too long? Have they been shipped out already? His comm came to life with Chisholm's voice, target secured. Guessing you want me to keep him here, use his house for the filming. La Brava answered, yes. Thank you. All done here, we're coming to you. Any victims there? Izuku asked with only the barest of hope. He doubted they would be held any place closely linked to the hero's public persona. No. Chisholm confirmed lowly. Abby grumbled, no trouble at the office. I used that doohickey in the computer like you asked and took all the stuff from the vault. Most of the other papers looked legitimate, but I took anything that seemed fishy. No villains, no victims. This was fucking boring. Izuku answered, I think most of the villains were here at the warehouse. We got 10. Labrava and I encountered 3 at the shipping office. With luck that will be all of them. Have you found victims? Izuku asked as he unlocked the next door. No. Gentle sounded wary, have you not? There are a lot of doors here, I'm still. Izuku opened the door and hurriedly pulled up his gas mask to vomit in the hallway. Blacklist. Chisholm's voice sounded worried, what is it? He coughed and spit, replacing his mask and standing tall again. I found some. Gentle's voice was as soothing as his name. Labrava and I will be there presently, dear boy. Okay. He whispered and stepped inside. The room was brightly lit. There were 10 small cages all around the walls, each one held a child. Not the teens or adults he'd been expecting. These kids were younger than Izuku, caged naked and shivering. There was no place for them to relieve themselves, and more than one had needed to go in their own little area. The smell was awful. In the center of the room were 3 beds. Strapped to each was another child, girls, maybe 10 years old. One was visibly pregnant. Izuku found the keys to fit the cages and started unlocking them while Eraserhead came in behind him and freed the girls from their beds. Some of the caged kids were cowering, but one launched himself at Izuku, wrapping his little arms around his waist and crying. Izuku smoothed the child's dirty hair and soothed him. It'll be okay. It'll be okay now. See that guy in black, behind me? That guy is a hero. He's here to rescue you. Eraserhead brought sheets over for the kids to use as makeshift clothing. I'm not the only hero here, kid. He spoke softly. Izuku wasn't going to cry. Blacklist didn't cry. Seeing their fellow captive treated so gently, the 9 other kids swarmed Izuku, all wailing and reaching for comfort. He covered each one, spoke softly, made sure they weren't badly hurt, at least not physically. Give me the keys. Eraserhead suggested when the kids didn't want to leave Izuku's side. I can check the last 3 doors. Izuku shook his head. Body cam. I need to. He settled the kids in cuddle piles on the beds where the girls were also sobbing, some of them latched onto girls from the cages like they were friends. Even if they hadn't been before, they were now. Shared trauma linking them. You guys stay here, okay? I need to find the other people who need help. We got all the bad guys, you're safe, and Eraserhead is going to call more heroes and the police to help you, okay? The kids were still panicked and the first little boy clung like a limpet to Izuku's sleeve. He sat on the bed and asked, hey, Eraserhead is probably my favorite hero ever. How about you guys? All Might, a little girl whispered. Present Mika boy this time. Endeavor, one of the pregnant girls said. Izuku heard Dobby's coughing laugh over the comms and didn't comment. After that it was like a floodgate opened, Edge shot. Mirko. Hawks. Crust. Mystic. Best Jeanist. Ryoko. Fat Gum. He asked Eraserhead, do you think you could get 1 or 2 of those heroes to come here? I can't promise all of them. But 1 or 2, yes. The little boy clinging to him asked, what's your name? Blacklist. Izuku smiled, but I'm just a vigilante, not a hero. The kid shook his head and declared, Blacklist is my favorite hero. The other kids started sharing the boy's declaration and Izuku bit his lip and fought to keep his tears in check. Eraserhead smiled at him and he tried to glower with only his eyes. The hero held up his hands and pulled out his phone to start making calls. Go, work fast. The heroes will be here soon once I start calling. Izuku hugged the children and left. The next door was a communication hub of some kind. Labrava and Gentle rushed in just in time and Izuku happily handed the task of that room to them after being fussed over for a minute until they were sure he was alright. He wasn't alright. This whole situation was sick. The door after that was a storage closet. The final door held the adult victims. They were chained to the walls, acting listless, probably drugged. He freed each one of them, but they couldn't do much more than look at him. It's okay. I'm here to help. Heroes, good ones, are on their way. Eraserhead is here. You can trust him. He'll make sure you're okay. It's over. You're safe. One of the women squeezed his hand and he squeezed back in compassion. We will make sure the man who did this never hurts you or anyone else again. More than one set of eyes closed in relief and Izuku slipped out and back to the communications room. How long? Labrava gave a thumbs up and the 3 of them rushed for the balcony. Eraserhead watched them with a blank expression. The adult victims are in the last door of the hall. They've been drugged. We'll make sure they're taken care of. The hero promised. Thank you, Eraserhead. Izuku bowed to the man. We couldn't have done it without you. Take care of yourself, problem child. Eraserhead nodded and turned back to his phone calls. Gentle took his hand when they jumped and didn't let go of it until they reached Razor's Edge's home, where Izuku found himself suddenly surrounded by the arms of his friends. Chisholm's strength, Gentle's kindness, Labrava's love, it was all too much. He burst into tears. Dabi hesitantly touched the gas mask and Izuku nodded, letting him remove it. Their new team member backed away awkwardly, mask in hand, and left the room. He came back a little while later with a ginger soda, cold washcloth, and freshly rinsed mask. Bastard had this in the fridge. It'll help your stomach. This'll help your eyes. Don't want to film looking like that. He hiccuped and took the offerings. Tea. Thanks Dabi. That's fine, kid. There's some shit a kid shouldn't have to see. Sorry you didn't get the pass most brats do. You didn't get a pass. Izuku noted. Dabi took a deep breath, yeah, but you don't want to turn out like me. Then he plopped the wet rag over Izuku's eyes. Rest while the rest of the merry band set up, yeah. I'll. He shuffled, but Izuku couldn't see what he was doing through the cold cloth. I'll keep watch for you. He closed his eyes and must have fallen asleep for a little while because he was suddenly in a cage with those kids, helpless and unable to get them out. Listening to their pleas, watching their violation. He woke up with a start and cut off scream. Dabi's hand was over his mouth, the other on his shoulder, shaking him. You okay now? The scarred man asked. He nodded. Dabi removed his hand and stood up. Drink that and mask up. He offered the same unopened ginger drink he had before. They're ready in the bastard's living room. Nai set up in front of the fireplace and everything. Izuku nodded and stood. You okay to do this? Dabi pressed. Izuku's voice was ragged, but it worked, so that was a plus. Have to be. He forced and walked into the other room, Dabi on his heels. The filming was awful. They had to keep stopping because Izuku couldn't manage a calm voice. In the end, they got something usable, but it was mostly Gentle speaking calmly and Izuku growling like a feral cat beside him. He did manage the usual outrow finally, and Labrava called it good. It wasn't good. The outrow was usually a stern warning. This time it was darker. It was angry. For the first time the threat had teeth, a gaping maw ready to close on the throat of the society that allowed this monstrosity to occur. Blacklist wasn't the cool and collected presence he'd been in the previous videos. He was vengeance personified. Izuku was glad it came out that way. Because it hid the scream that had been lodged in the back of his throat the whole time. Luckily, he told his mom once again that he was staying overnight at a friend's house because he didn't think he could be alone just yet. The kids, what they must have gone through. The pregnant child. How many had been shipped overseas already? How many would they never find? How many were broken beyond rescue? The 5 of them slipped from Razor's Edge's home after binding him with wire so he couldn't cut himself free with his quirk. He could languish a day before the police came to look for him. They weren't risking him skipping town. Blacklist. Eraserhead was waiting on a nearby roof. Izuku had anticipated Chisholm getting between him and the hero, but he hadn't expected Dabi to do the same. He squeezed each of their arms gratefully but stepped forward. Thank you again, Eraserhead. I would have been in trouble if you hadn't been there. The hero shook his head and stared. Are you alright, problem child? Izuku took a deep breath. No. I keep thinking about the kids we didn't save. But I'll be fine. We won't be alone tonight. After they see the footage I think we'll all be better together. How are the kids? Did they get to meet their heroes? Present Mick was first on scene. He brought merch for them to wear and was talking their ears off when I left. Since the fight was over not all of them would come, but Best Jeanist and Fat Gum are on their way. Crust and Mystic were showing up as I was leaving. They're in good hands. He sighed and shook his head. This isn't something I wanted for you. I know. Izuku smiled, but it's not your problem, Eraserhead. You're going to get hurt, kid. Dabi snarled, yeah, like he'd be safe otherwise. I have a pretty good idea what he found, hero. This isn't a safe world for anyone. You should be fucking grateful he's fighting it instead of drowning in it. Asshole. Eraserhead cocked his head and stared at Dabi while Izuku put a hand back on the angry man's arm. We have a lot still to do, Eraserhead. Here. The hero held out a small white card. You can reach me at that number if you need me. For anything. You did a great thing tonight, kid. Even if I don't think you should have to. Izuku took the card and smiled. You really are the best hero, Eraserhead. Thank you. Then he was surrounded by his overprotective team and they made their way back to their rooftop, changed into regular clothes, and went back to Gentle Criminal's home. They finished and uploaded the video as the sun was rising, which worked out well. None of them had any wish to sleep after seeing what Izuku had seen. Instead, they all gathered on and around Gentle's couch with tea or coffee in hand. Labrava put a movie on the TV. Izuku couldn't focus on it. From the brief bit he caught it was something about a sick kid getting read to by his grandpa. He just sat on the floor under Gentle and Labrava, squished between Chisholm and Dobby, and tried not to fly apart again. Dobby ruffled his hair and wiped a tear of blood from the stitches under his eye. Tear ducts are burned up, he said quietly. And even cry when I want to. Izuku sniffled, I think I cry enough to be crying your tears too. He tried for levity and failed miserably. No. It will get easier. Chisholm promised. Do not fear to cry, dear boy. Gentle offered behind him. Tears are proof you care, that the world has yet to harden you. Izuku sniffed again. We're here, Izuku. Labrava promised and hugged his shoulders. More tears dripped into his tea. Thanks for watching guys, make sure to leave a like, share and subscribe. Also don't forget to check out author of this story. All details in description.